Going to call the regular meeting, going to call a public hearing before our regular meeting. Tonight is Tuesday, January 2nd. Due to the holiday on Monday, we have our regular meeting tonight. The public hearing is an amendment for the Town Code, Chapter 22, Article 2, the Culture and Arts Commission. Okay. Public hearing ground rules. The public hearing has been scheduled to allow interested citizens an opportunity to express their opinion regarding the proposed amendments to Chapter 22 of the Town Code of Enfield, Article 2, the Cultural Arts Commission ordinance. Roll call, please.
Councilor Arnone.
Here.
Councilor Bosco.
Here.
Councilor Sakala.
Here.
Councilor Casati.
Here.
Councilor Davis.
Here.
Councilor Denny. Councilor Falk.
Here.
Mayor Ludwig.
Here.
Councilor Muller.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Here.
Councilor Ungary.
Here.
There's 10 members present, 1 is absent.
The following notice of public hearing was published in the Hartford Current Friday, December 22nd, 2017. Town of Enfield Legal Notice Public Hearing. The Enfield Town Council will hold a public hearing in the Enfield Town Hall, Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, on Tuesday, January 2nd, 2018, at 6:50 p.m. to allow interested citizens an opportunity to express their opinion regarding the proposed amendments to Chapter 22 of the Town Code of Enfield, Article 2, the Cultural Arts Commission ordinance. Information is available at the Town Manager's Office. Susan Olnicki, Town Clerk, dated December 19, 2017. Ground rules for the public hearing. There is no time limit, but I ask that each person not take up too much time so that everyone have an opportunity to speak. After each person who desires has 1 chance to speak, I shall permit those individuals who desire a second chance. After those individuals desire to speak a second time, I shall permit those individuals that desire a third, fourth, etc., time permitting. Please refrain from personalities. Brian, any quick highlights to the Culture Art Amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just a quick summary. This proposed amendment effectively reduces the membership requirements of the commission in an attempt to provide them an opportunity to hold a quorum more frequently so that they can conduct appropriate business.
So at this time, if anyone from the public would like to speak on this public hearing, again, specifically to this public hearing, please raise your hand. Would anyone like to speak on this public hearing? Going once, going twice. We'll close this public hearing. The second public hearing, tax assessment agreement with preferred display. Public hearing ground rules has been scheduled to allow interested citizens an opportunity to express their opinions regarding the proposed tax assessment agreement with Preferred Display, Inc. and VCRV LLC for the property located at 215 Moody Road. Roll call, please.
Councilor Arnone.
Here.
Councilor Bosco.
Here.
Councilor Sakala.
Here.
Councilor Casati.
Here.
Councilor Davis.
Here.
Councilor Denny. Councilor Falk.
We're here.
Mayor Ludwig.
Here.
Councilor Muller.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Here.
Councilor Ungary.
Here.
10 present, 1 is absent.
The following notice of public hearing was published in the Hartford Current Friday, December 22nd, 2017. Town of Enfield Legal Notice Public Hearing. The Enfield Town Council will hold a public hearing in the Enfield Town Hall, Council Chambers, 820 Enfield Street, Enfield, Connecticut, on Tuesday, January 2nd, 2018, at 6:50 p.m. to allow interested citizens an opportunity to express their opinions regarding a proposed tax assessment agreement with Preferred Display, Inc. and VCRV LLC for the property located at 215 Moody Road. For more information, call our Director of Development Services. It's Susan Olnicki, Town Clerk, dated December 19, 2017. Ground rules for the public hearing. There is no time limit, but I ask that each person not take up too much time, so everyone will have an opportunity to speak. After each person who desires has a chance to speak, I shall permit those individuals who desire a second chance. After those individuals who desire to speak a second time, I shall permit those individuals who desire a third, fourth, etc. Please refrain from personalities. At this time, anyone would like to speak in this public hearing, please raise your hand. I'm sorry. A quick update before we have, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, this particular abatement applies to what is the Preferred Display project over on 215 Moody Road. This has been an abatement that has been lengthy in process. We attempted under the previous council leadership to actually provide a rebate as opposed to a conventional abatement as is structured in this agreement. Unfortunately, the Connecticut general statutes didn't enable us that opportunity to provide the rebate, and that's what has effectively delayed this particular project. This is a company new to town. They provide display cases for cosmetic products and whatnot in most major retail outlets. The local factory was in South Windsor. They went to expand that facility and could not find accommodating space there in South Windsor, so the South Windsor manager brought them to us, as several of their employees are from the Enfield area. So this will be a relocation, or is a relocation of the jobs both in South Windsor here to Enfield, as well as several jobs out of New Jersey. The total net effect of job growth, I believe, is 120 jobs over the period of the abatement. Both the Finance Director, John Wilcox, and the Director of Development Services, Mike Cirillo, are here to talk to any greater detail about this particular abatement. Again, this does not apply to any personal property or other taxable assets other than the actual real estate property value itself. So.
Thank you. Would anyone from the public like to speak at this public hearing? Going once, going twice. We'll close the public hearing. Thank you. Okay, now we call the regular meeting. Tonight's January 2nd, 2018. Our regular meeting's about to begin. Councilor Davis, the prayer. Please rise.
I have a quote from Pablo. This is the new year, the new you. You can pass through another year, coasting on cruise control, or you can step out of your comfort zone, trying things you have never done before. They make 2018 as the year that you elevate from where you are and you can soar high. Make it happen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Suzanne.
Counselor Davis.
Here.
Counselor Denny. Counselor Falk.
Here.
Mayor Ludwig.
Here.
Counselor Muller. Here. Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Here.
Counselor Ungary.
Lori.
Counselor Ungary.
Here.
Thank you. Counselor Arnone.
Here.
Counselor Bosco. Here. Counselor Sakala.
Here.
Counselor Crisati.
Here.
There's 10 members present, 1 is absent.
In case of a fire, again, we have the doors in the back. Please orderly walk to the back or go right out the left to the doors to your right, actually. Take your first left, go down the stairs, hook around the corner, and go right out the doors in case of a fire. Item number 5, minutes of proceeding meetings. Do I have a motion to approve the special meeting December 18th, 2017?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Falk, seconded by Counselor Arnone. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, by hand, please. All those in favor? All those opposed? Abstention? 10 in favor, 0. Now, could we have a motion to approve the regular meeting December 18th, 2017?
So moved.
Counselor Arnone, seconded by Counselor Crisati. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those by show of hands, in favor? Opposed, abstentions, 10-0. Item 6, special guest, Karen Barone. I apologize if I ruined her name. Karen Barone, the Network Against Domestic Abuse. Come on up.
How are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good. Kathy Barron. How's that?
Pronunciation isn't a specialty.
That's all right. That's okay. Thank you guys very much for having me. I see a lot of new faces. I see a neighbor. And congratulations on everyone's new positions here.
Welcome.
Hi, Brian. Just want to pass these out first. We are the Network Against Domestic Abuse. I'm sure most of you, or if not all of you, do know about our organization because we're located right here in town. We are a nonprofit organization. We are one of 18 domestic violence agencies in the state of Connecticut. We operate under, as a program member to the Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence. We do operate as our own And basically what we have done is I break your microphone, I'm sorry. Basically, we operate under different catchment areas. In your brochures there talks about our organization specifically, different functions that we have, different things that we do. We have a safe house in Enfield. Some of you may or may not know the location, but I cannot disclose it. But you are more than welcome to come and visit our office on 139 Hazard Avenue. I would be more than happy to give you a tour of the location so you would be familiar with what is actually in your town. This is a 15-bed safe house, but that's only a piece of the work that we do within the town of Enfield and the 5 surrounding towns. So the other towns that we do provide services to, and again, all these services are free, are Suffield, Somers, East Windsor, Windsor Locks, and Stafford. However, the bulk of our clients do come from the town of Enfield because we're located here. We also, just for kind of sending off some numbers, and I don't want to get really into a whole lot of statistics or anything like that, but I do want to throw out some numbers to you because our fiscal year runs from January to December. This year we did close to 8,000 individuals. We provided a service to them. And what that means by services, we've either educated the children in the school systems. In Enfield School alone, we educated over 4,600 students. We talked to them regarding healthy relationships, healthy friendships, how to manage your anger. We also found out that bullying is a correlation between domestic violence. As we start to gain statistics over the course of the years, we can actually relate some of that information. So we are very fortunate that Enfield was one of the first schools that had us come in, and we are in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and the high school. 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, we're there 2 to 3 times a year talking to the students. So it's pretty exciting because we talk to them about positive things, emotions, feelings, friendships. So we believe that we can grow, hopefully, the next generation of violence-free individuals. So with that being said, 255 Enfield residents actually were serviced, provided a free service through with our court victim advocate, who is a full-time individual in the Enfield court system. She works directly for the organization, and what she does is when there is an arrest, whether it's a dual arrest or whether it's a single arrest, she helps the victim navigate through the court system. And what that means is, oftentimes, picture yourself in a situation where you don't know where you are, and you don't know what the process is going to be. And someone may have called the police, and the police came, and there was an arrest, and now they took that sole provider out of the household, and the individual goes to court the next day, and he or she does not know what's going to happen next. Family Relations hooks that individual up with our court victim advocate and helps them navigate the court system. Again, it's a long process. It probably takes sometimes, in some cases, a year, sometimes longer, but explains what's going to happen. That more than likely there will be a protective or a restraining order. More than likely their significant other will not be returning home, which does create a whole nother ball of wax, specifically if there's someone who's financially responsible for that. So this is the bulk of her work. She's put in well over 1,580 hours on these 255 individuals. So that's approximately 6 hours per person, and that's just in the town of Enfield alone. We've had 194 additional Enfield residents who have asked for our services from one way or another. That could be through one-on-one counseling, calling our hotline, being in our safe house, and coming to a support group that is, you would have to come in, and it's an uninvited, it's not a drop-in, it's a very structured 6 to 8 week support group. So I just want to let you know that we are in the town of Enfield. We are here We appreciate the support and the services that Enfield provides. We appreciate the funding, especially in these terrible, terrible times that we're all struggling with. But I wanted to just kind of, when Lori came in and introduced herself to me, I threw myself at your mercy and wanted to tell you a little bit about our organization because unfortunately, a lot of people still don't know about us. So I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but in your brochure it does give you a lot of information about how we started, some of our statistics, exactly the things that we do. Our safe house used to be, some of you probably remember, called Tracy Thurman. We renamed it a couple years ago after one of our board members who passed away, and she was very supportive and it was very instrumental in working with me, changing the view and the outlook of the organization over the past 10 years. Her name was Julie Fallon, so we now have our safe house named after her, Julie Safe House. So if anyone has any questions, I would be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for coming.
Okay.
I've actually had the pleasure when the program started in the school systems to sit in and watch a class with Annalisa. She does a phenomenal job, and she's brought that program up. I can only imagine what it is today, but you really know it's a success when the children start instant impact. It's to them right away. They're talking, they're discussing. A phenomenal program. I'm happy we have it in our school, and I hope it's in our school many years to come. Doing fantastic work. Just so everybody knows, too, the hotline, you also have a hotline. It's 860-763-4542. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Anything else you'd like to add to that, how we can get support?
It is a live hotline. The other thing I would like to add too, is just most recently the Enfield Police Department came on board with us, and we're working, hoping to make everything successful. The whole state of Connecticut is in a program. It's called LAP. It's a lethality assessment program. And the most dangerous time for a police officer to go to a home is a domestic, because they never know what's going to happen. So I applaud them for the work that they do, and I really appreciate their support, not only helping us with our safe house, but also because of this lethality assessment program, we're working very hard with our state police and our local police, that when there is a call, there's a checklist of 6 questions that we ask the police officer to ask. And they also go through training with this as well, which is key and important that we build that relationship together. And if those questions are asked and that triggers something, immediately the officer can connect the individual to our hotline. So at that point, we can get them into safety, or if they're not appropriate to come into safety in the Enfield area because of the location of where they may be living, we can always get them to one of our other 17 sister agencies. So I just really want to place a strong impact on this lethality assessment program. It has been very successful in Maryland. We are one of the only other states who have all of our police officers on board. And I appreciate that, you know, and I appreciate the support of all of our officers in the state of Connecticut for the work that they need to do. My goal is also to maybe work with the individuals. Some of the police officers, we have a great training program that we could work with them and also do a little bit more counseling with them.
Great.
So.
Our police chief's right in the back there, too. You can give him a big wave.
Hey,
Thank
Carl,
you.
how are you?
So, donations, last but not least, where can people donate? What can they donate other than cash? Do you need household items? Just call the office?
Actually, if you're interested in donating, we only accept new items. We have a wish list that is usually on our mailing list. The other thing is that you can just go right out onto our website, and you can get a list of things that are always needed. Most importantly, I think I want everyone to really, really understand that the work that we do in our safe house, and I'm not minimizing it, we have a 15-bed safe house. The work we do in the community, when you're talking 8,000 individuals, the work we do in the community, that is the bulk of our work. We work with the kids, we work with the individuals, and our goal is to keep them safe and sustainable within the community. The last place you want to be is to have uproot a family and put them in shelter. So we work very closely with each town social service agency. Dawn and I have a pretty good relationship, and we try to make and connect the resources. So it's more about the resources and things that we can do so we can prevent individuals from going back into a domestic situation again.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you guys. Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Item number 7, public communications petitions. Suzanne, do we need a list or? No, okay. We asked you, I'll just raise your hand, I'll just select, I'll try to make sure I get to the first person who raised their hand. 5 minutes is the first go around and then 3 minutes in the second. Again, we just ask folks to refrain from personalities and stick to your issues. Ma'am on the corner. I think you had your hand up first. I'll give you a heads up 30 seconds in. I'll try not to, 30 seconds left. I'll try not to interrupt you as much as I can. Just your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Marilyn Hare, and I've worked for this town for almost 40 years. And I work at the Enfield Adult Day Center now as a per diem aide. And I've noticed a lot of changes there, and I'm very worried about the center existing with the changes that are up and coming. And I know that we fought in this chamber trying to keep it running, both with budgets and help and everything else. And some of the new changes that are really concerning are the fact that the aides are no longer allowed on the bus to pick the clients up in the morning and bring them home, and that out-of-towners will not be allowed to attend. And we've had problems with having our numbers up there to keep the finances flowing. And I think that this will be detrimental to our budget if we don't have enough clients. And we're also not going to be allowed to take in clients that are medically necessary. In other words, if they have Parkinson's or if they are in Alzheimer, they won't be allowed to come in anymore. And this is wrong. We're supposed to be helping the seniors that need help. If they don't need help, then they can go to the senior center. But these are the more frail population of Enfield. And I know as an aide there, we've always worked very hard to keep these frail people going and staying in the community as long as we can care for them. There are other small changes that have occurred, and I'm sure there will be more coming. I know that the meals have been cut back because of budget constraints, and sometimes we've had to hustle last minute and make sure there was enough lunch for everybody. And there's just a lot of worries for the people that work there. I would appreciate it if you could give this some attention and some thought, because we've all worked so hard, like I said, to keep the center up and running. And I'm afraid that it's just not going to be able to survive with these constraints put on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Gina.
Gina Sullivan, 11 Spear Avenue. Good evening. I'm here tonight to follow up on a few items. First item on my list was to ask about the CNA on the bus, and I just heard that the CNA has been taken off the bus. Please reevaluate that for the safety of the clients, for the safety of the driver. And quite honestly, we shouldn't be opening up ourselves to any more lawsuits at this point. Second, at the last meeting, I asked if the director and assistant director of social services will be in charge of the day center, senior center, who is doing their job of director and assistant director of social services. The answer I received via email from the town manager was this: the administration and operation of the ADC and the SC are and will continue to be a working collaboration of staff at all levels until such time as the new fiscal and operational policy for the town are established by council. Since two positions, the director of the senior center and director of adult day center, are budgeted positions for 2017 and 2018, I am unclear why filling these positions will need to wait until, quote, a new fiscal and operational policy for the town are established by council, end quote. In my opinion, this response is very vague and could lead people to believe major changes may be coming to these two areas. Please provide details so speculation can finally be put to rest. I also asked the question about the Director of Social Services' experience with elder care and if she was an RN, since she seems to be overseeing the Enfield Adult Day Center / Senior Center. The answer I received via email from the town manager was this: the director has previously served as a program manager in residential and respite programs serving the elderly, including those with dementia and traumatic brain injury, as well as with adults of all ages with behavioral challenges, mental health issues, and developmental delays. No, the Director of Social Services is not a registered nurse. A program manager is not a position that deals directly with elderly one-on-one on a daily basis, as do the director of the Adult Day Center, the nurses, and the CNAs. And since the Director of Social Services is not an RN, it is very concerning that someone without all the proper experience is making decisions in a leadership role over the everyday functions of the Enfield Adult Day Center. I will now move on to the article in the Journal-Enquirer where the town manager addressed questions that the Friends of the Senior Center presented at the last town council meeting. Please understand that residents ask many questions, and because there seems at times to be conflicting or contradicting information provided to us as far as how things are done for one area compared to other areas. The article states why the Friends of the Seniors cannot have their donation box at the Senior Center, and it was stated by town manager that the Friends of the Seniors have the Senior Center address as their own, which they would need to change. So to compare, how is that different than, let's say, for example, the Enfield Community Development Corporation nonprofit using the town hall as their address? Or another example, PTOs using each school as their address. It was also stated that employees of the Senior Center were doing work for the Friends of the Senior Center, which is also not allowed, and stated as, quote, utilizing town staff in their fundraising efforts or activities, using phones, copiers, or office supplies to conduct business activities. So again, to compare, how is that different than our town manager being named the executive director of the Enfield Community Development Corporation nonprofit? Is he doing ECDC work on his private time or on town time? Or another example, how is this different than PTO in school buildings that have secretaries sorting PTO mail or PTO members using photocopy machines in school offices for PTO-related activities? Or how is the town able to pay for the services for the 4th of July town celebration as in-kind donations when our town manager is saying, in these cases, in the case of the Friends of the Seniors, that nothing can be done by town employees or town resources for a nonprofit using tax dollars? Remember, Susan Lather, the former Senior Center director, was reprimanded for $2,000 spent on volunteers. And town manager said at that time, volunteers should not be getting taxpayer money. For the 4th of July celebration, is the police presence at the event donated by the police department? I'm almost done.
Sorry.
Thanks. Or do buildings and grounds donate their time as well? Please understand, I'm asking these questions for clarification purposes only. People have told me my information is incorrect, and that very well may be. But please, I implore all of you, if there's bad information floating around in the public, why wouldn't you clarify these questions? I can only go by what I see and hear at meetings as well as the newspaper. The examples I have listed above are perfect examples of how situations seem to contradict each other. If something is wrong for one nonprofit, shouldn't that be uniform across all nonprofits that in some way help our town? I really hope there can be some information provided to clarify why it seems the Friends of the Seniors are being targeted. Any details that could be provided by our town manager would be greatly appreciated and could resolve many questions. Thank you very much.
Monroe. Welcome.
Hi,
How you doing?
I'm Deborah Ferrari. I live at 13 Aloha Drive. I'm sorry, I'm not a public speaker, but this issue has gotten me. I'm speaking today about the major changes at the Adult Day Center that are happening. The Adult Day Center families had a letter sent to them stating that the aides will no longer be on the buses and that it would be just considered the same as a regular dial-a-ride person that would call for a ride. The bus would stop outside the house, beep, and then the person would go down to the bus without an aide. However, just to clarify, the senior center and other people in the community that use the dial-a-ride are not the people that are at the Adult Day Center. The Adult Day Center has, I would say, about 90% people have either dementia or Alzheimer's. So they are choosing right now to start. Today was the starting time of this no aides CNA on the bus. They're starting it in the dead of winter when an elderly person, even if they do have family, coming down the driveway to get onto the bus, and then the family has to go onto the bus, click them in, because the drivers are told not to do anything. And so we have to wait. Right now, it's the pickup time is between 7:30 and 8 o'clock for my mother. Up until now, it's been between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. So that's an awfully early amount of time to be ready for 7:30 in the morning for somebody that has dementia or Alzheimer's. And it's a lot to put on a family that is already stressed to begin with. It's adding more stress. First of all, the people that are doing these changes, it's Dawn Bouvier. When they first decided that they were going to do this, they said that they were going to make these changes. They didn't consult the families as to what our needs are. They are using this decision more as a business model to cut costs and not allow for the types of clients at the ADC. I would like to know why this is even being done, first of all, and why it's being done in the dead of winter. If you have to start a program like this, why not start in the spring? Why look forward to, somebody else had mentioned lawsuits. I had mentioned that I sought out Dawn Bouvier And when I spoke to her and I asked about what happens, you know, if there's somebody falls and breaks a hip, she nonchalantly said to me that the homeowner's insurance would cover this. The homeowner's insurance would cover it if it was in our driveway. And if it happened on the bus, yes, the town would be responsible for it. Then our family contacted a person that was on the letter, whose name is Damien, no last name included. I spoke to him, I guess he does some billing work, about how I had not heard anything about when the times were for pickup or what really was going on. And he, let's see. Oh, yes, he had stated that if a client could not do this by going out into the street and a family could not do that, that they had other people that were ready to replace them with younger 50 to 60-year-olds. And that kind of, I don't want to say heartless, nonchalance makes me think that there is this underlying current of people that are,
Time's almost up. Could you finish?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, please.
So first of all, I'd like to say, just to reiterate, I would like to say that this is, why is it being done in the dead of winter? I would really implore the town council to look into this, and also why we have to have a group making decisions that seem that cavalier.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Sir.
Okay, I got my timer on.
You have 5 minutes, sir.
I got it at 4:30, so boom, here I go. Feel like the Academy Awards. My name is Art Cody, president of the Friends of the Enfield Senior Center. Our address is 299 Elm Street. I'm a resident of Enfield at 103 Middle Road. I'm responding to the article that was in last Friday's Journal Inquirer. First of all, I'd like to thank the town council members who I spoke to over the phone. Very enlightening. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen of the town council, I'm here to respond to the article in the Journal Inquirer dated December 29th. I apologize if it doesn't answer all your questions that may have developed since my last visit, but I didn't make the town manager's email list when he answered the questions put forth. Actually, I found out about the email from the Journal Inquirer, not even a, hey buddy, bring talking to you email. Legal definition of emolument. A return arising from office or employment, usually in the form of compensation or prerequisites. I took this because that was the big issue, I guess, with us. Therefore, I'm turning this paper over to the town. The Friends of the Enfield Senior Center only uses a copier, and that stopped in June at our last meeting when Sue Later was the manager there. We did that at her permission. So I figured out that we usually have three pages per member. There are 10 members on the board. Therefore, we print about 30 sheets for that per meeting. There are 10 meetings a year. That's 300 sheets. Usually one sheet for agenda, 2 for the minutes. That should cover it, more than cover it. Thank you very much for allowing me to use a copier. I would have done the ink for the copier, but I have no clue how much that would cost. I also, in a bag back there, I got the thumb drive. Thank you very much for your 8 gigabyte. I can't buy an 8 gigabytes, so I bought a 16, but you guys can keep the extra 8 gigabytes. This is an interesting take on the Friends' relationship with the Senior Center. I agree there are activities that the town did perform up to the change in management. And there are things that we should have been doing on our own, frankly, not only because the town employees were doing it, but for our own privacy's sake. I guess when donation came in, the town would register it on an Excel sheet, and that's why we got the little thumb drive. And then it would be printed out and given to Mary McCure, our treasurer. Memorial donations would be sent out to family members with a thank you note. Annual appeal donations over $100 or more were also given a note. And they also put it into the front and center. This was something that was sent to us at the end of September, and by our October meeting on the 12th, we took over those responsibilities. Thank you for letting us know. In fact, it did us a favor, because it made us become more independent. Actually, it shouldn't have been the town's business at all to do it, or to even know what we had for funding. The above-mentioned activity was discussed at the Friends October meeting, and we took on all those things. As a side note, I received my email and I have reviewed my email and have not found a note from the town to say our records are being boxed up. I thought I solved it this morning. I really did. Talking to people around the scene, said, "Oh, do you know anything about it?" And they made suggestions, so I followed up on that, but I haven't heard anything back yet. As for comparisons to the Friends of the Enfield Senior Center with the Friends of the Enfield Library, if you use your computer, I would suggest you check out enfieldpubliclibrary.org. Right under the banner is a menu. On the second line of the menu is Friends Groups, which brings you to the Friends of the Enfield Senior Center. The address is listed with the following instructions. If you want to make a check, make it payable to the Friends of the Enfield Library at 104 Middle Road, which I believe is the address of the Enfield Library. Somehow that's possible, but having ours at 299 Elm Street is not. So I would like to really understand why that is. It says, if the library does not utilize town staff in funding their fundraising efforts or activities, oh, Christ, I'm sorry. I got 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Okay. Roberta, raise your hand. I believe that the only major fundraising activity held by the library is held on library grounds. The librarians move the books from the donation shed into the cellar of the library. Now, I realize prisoners come back and take them out of the donation shed and move them into the tent when the library does its sale. The town manager made it clear in our September meeting that the process was not of the definition of the new job as a senior director. We totally understand that. Understand he had to wait for the town to have an election, for the state to do its budget, which was very slow this year. We as senior citizens are tax-paying citizens of Enfield.
Mr. Cody.
Okay.
Sorry, you wrap up.
Oh, wrap up. Okay. Well, and we completely understand. Most of us are retired. We live on fixed incomes. So when taxes go up, it does concern us because most property owners who are on retirement do not have raises or anything like that. So the question is still unanswered. What timeline question? Frankly, the Friends of the Enfield Senior Center has a limited amount of funds to spend, but there is no sense blocking our efforts to support the Senior Center in a manner prescribed by law and regulation for a 501c3. If you're saying you have a budget possibly up to a $3 to $5 million deficit, I do not know why we're being rejected. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. And all you guys who called me, thank you very much. By the way, I have another question. I'll leave this here for you. Our emoluments are done. Have a good time. Type all you want. You can even single-side it. There's 500 sheets per box.
You're the town attorney.
Sir.
I've done my job. I've done my job.
Good evening. Joshua Hamry, 52 New King Street. Hello to the faces I haven't seen before in this capacity, and to those that I have, apologies in advance. First off, Alcorn basketball hoops have been taken out to make parking spaces for presumably Board of Ed staff. They get paid enough. They can park in the commuter lot at the mall, and they can take the Magic City bus, Magic Carpet, from the commuter lots to Alcorn. If we can have our basketball hoops back, please, where the children do actually use them during the summer months. That it was done during the dead of winter speaks to a hopefully not an ongoing trend. My purpose for being here, though, is to bring to your attention an issue that Mike, Gina, I emailed you two directly as part of the loan review committee with the the Enfield Development Corporation. I'll read to you the email that I sent to them so you have a situational awareness, and if there's anything you do with it, great. If not, I just want you to be aware. On Saturday, December 9th, 2017, the boiler in our house failed with an outside temperature around 33 degrees. We cleaned it up, set a number of space heaters around the house, and I called the Enfield Neighborhood Services, left a voicemail explaining the situation. Enfield Neighborhood Services in the past has helped us out when our sewer line collapsed, and they took care of everything. They made the contractor appointments. They got the financing set up for us. Incredibly smooth process, so I turned to them again. I spoke to somebody in the Enfield Neighborhood Services on Monday, December 11th, and they provided the information that the program that was in place is no longer. They redirected me to the Enfield Community Development Office, where I spoke with Dawn, who explained there was a program designed to help with this kind of emergency repair, and she explained that there would be an income threshold that would impact our eligibility, as well as a loan-to-value component that could be a factor, though the Employee Development could, Community Development could request a waiver that was typically waived for loan-to-value. Okay. So I explained our income is subject to my employment. I work for a contract company that has a contract with the government. Every year the contract comes up, and in the last 3 years I've been laid off twice for a total of about 4 or 5 months out of those years. And obviously my income is impacted by that layoff. So I explained all of this to them in terms of the financing. And so I completed an application Monday night, delivered it to the office Tuesday morning, and waited. Because the temperatures at this time were well below freezing, I had to pursue any option I could to get heating in my house for my family. We had to contact several different contractors as a prerequisite for this Enfield Community Development. And as they mentioned, they need at least 3 contractors to provide a quote so that they can move forward. In the meantime, I also looked at what other programs might be available, some information that Dawn had forwarded to me, which I'll get to later. But I was just looking for anything that was out there. I was able to also speak to my credit union, which was able to provide a loan ultimately for us to get our replacement boiler in the house. There's a federal program that is useless in this area because their rates are no better than any other commercial program available. So why it's a federal program, it just doesn't make sense. Point being, the ECD, Enfield Community Development, has a loan of program with a rate in the 4% rate, around 4+%. The federal program is at least 8%, if I remember correctly. Thursday, December 14th, I was informed that we were ineligible for the program because of our household income. As I mentioned earlier, I gave them the warning. The way they calculate it should factor in these extenuating circumstances for our finances, our income. I asked if there was any consideration for our income fluctuations, explained our positive standing with the prior program through Enfield Neighborhood Services, and Dawn explained that there was nothing that could be done about our surpassing the threshold income by $1,500. $125 a month, we were over the income level for this program. Didn't even go into the loan-to-value ratio. I asked for the contact information for the review committee, as it is available on the, as it explains in the application, that a review committee goes through the process of reviewing these loans. It was in that response that Dawn sent me. She provided me the names of those people on the review committee. And I'm sorry, when I asked for those names on the committee, Peter Bryanton responded. Peter explained that they had been using, love this part, he explained that they had been using the 2016 HUD income limits because HUD hadn't released the 2017 limits until just recently. By recently, the actual release date for the HUD income limits was in April of this year. We were, in fact, eligible for this program by a little over $1,000 some odd. Whatever happens, this program that is supposed to be there for us, and if I'm not mistaken, it's a community block grant that funds that program, use it or lose it. This program failed us. We were eligible. Loan to value is not an issue because they, as they mentioned several times during my discussions, they can usually get a waiver for that and everything moves forward. They did nothing to help us, nothing at all. I'm beyond dismayed. But in hearing what I am about the senior center, it seems to be something of a new era in personal interactions with the residents of town, in town. I thank you very much for your time tonight. Again, I don't expect that there's anything you can do, but please be aware that this is something that the next family may not have the credit union or the credit score that allows them to get a review and an approval within 2 hours. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Welcome. How you doing?
I'm okay. My name is Teresa Beebe. I live on St. James Ave in Enfield. I'm here tonight with a heavy heart to update you on the closure of Blair Manor. Just one second. I would first like to thank the council for trying to help our residents to keep their home open. Attorney Bromson and his team did the best for our residents at Blair Manor, but their concerns went unheard. It is heartbreaking as our residents are told of the relocation plans and to witness their despair. Trying to reassure them it will be okay, but the reports that have come back to us via family members are disheartening. To hear about the emotional and physical toll that it has taken on them. As we have talked about before, transfer trauma is a real thing. 2 of our relocated residents have sustained injuries, and 4 have died. No one should ever have to feel so helpless and hopeless that they give up on life and that the only thing they feel they control is their death. I can't believe that the receiver appointed by the state can have so much power over people's lives to be able to present only her case to the judge and not to have to hear from those affected by the decision. The judge not to have the opportunity to hear how the census numbers were manipulated in the receiver's favor. Being allowed to not let interested parties consider purchasing Blair Manor after, after speaking to family members, contacting the state ombudsman's office to see if anything could be done to stop this. Being told this type of thing happens with closures and that the regional person would follow them. I will tell you that right now, with everything that I've already heard from the people here, I really hope that you guys are going to consider what's happening at the Enfield Day Center. I'm sorry.
Take your time. Go ahead.
Okay. It is beyond my ability to rationalize this. Shouldn't we as a society be protecting our frail and elderly from potential harm? What is the value of anyone's mom, dad, sister, brother, or grandparents' lives? You see, everyone is someone important to somebody. It is my hope that our legislature will take some kind of action to protect the frail and elderly of our state. As the judge in her ruling, this is not a direct quote, but did say that that her decision was based on the law set by the legislature. I don't know how the legislature could give the receiver so much discretion and power to put people's lives at risk and then not be accountable for the outcome. People's lives are at risk here, and I urge everyone to contact their elected officials and to tell them that what is happening is unconscionable. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your sincere attempt to help the residents of Blair Manor. I'm a little emotional tonight because I had to attend the services for someone who was very dear to all of us. And another resident whose family member was actually here at the council also passed last night. And this is preventable. I'm a nurse. I'm okay with the cycle of life. I expect that people live, we live a natural life, and we die. But when it can be prevented, when we know that this kind of thing can happen to people with the closure of nursing homes, and then we continue to close nursing homes, it's just beyond my capability of thinking. that we would do anything and everything we could to protect these people. And once again, I didn't expect to hear what I was hearing tonight, but I really have a lot of faith in this council, and I know that you guys are going to do the right thing. And whoever is responsible for the callous treatment of the people at the Enfield Day Center, I know will be adjusted. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Hello, my name is Vinny Westlisa, 12 Deer Run. I'd like to first thank Councilor Davis and Councilor Bosco for helping us out with a situation we had. We'd like to thank you for helping us rectify the situation. I won't go into details because it's personal, but thank you. My reason for being here is I went to the Board of Ed and I addressed the issue of JFK. Now that the referendum has failed, I was wondering what the plan was for JFK and how the board thought that they were going to go through a process of remedying some of the problems that we have with JFK. And when I asked that question to the Board of Ed, I was told that, and this is from the Assistant Board of Ed Chair, that they really don't care about the building, only what's in it. And I should go see the town council to find out what their answer is on this. So I'm here trying to find out what the answer is on that. So my question to the board is, the referendum failed. We got some serious problems at JFK. It's undersized and it's in very poor condition. And from what I see on Facebook today, it lacks heat right about now. So I'm looking to find out what is the council's plan on this, and where do they see the timeline of being able to go from having a plan of what we're going to do to JFK and actually seeing some results of fixing the problem there. The kids in our town deserve better, and I think doing something sooner as opposed to later is better for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else for the first time? Sir, how you doing?
Lucian Lefebvre, 54 Kimberly Drive, Enfield. Also post commander for American Legion Post 154, and that's the capacity I'm here tonight for. I'm here to announce that our 68th annual Four Chaplains Mass, which is hosted by the John Macholik American Legion Post 154, is going to be on February 11th at the 1045 Mass at St. Pat's Church, 64 Pearl Street, Enfield. We have a member of the Chapel of the Four Chaplains Board of Directors that narrates the story, and he indicated that he will be attending again this year. And the reason for the Mass is to honor the four chaplains that went down with the USAT Dorchester troop ship. And on a historical note, on February 3rd, 1943, a German U-boat, U-223, spotted the troop ship USAT Dorchester with over 900 aboard and torpedoed her below the waterline. As the vehicle sank, the four chaplains calmed the frightened soldiers and sailors, aided in the evacuation of the ship, and helped guide the wounded men to safety. The chaplains also gave up their life vests so that others could survive, and they went down with the ship in the North Atlantic. On December 19, 1944, they were posthumously awarded the Purple Heart and Distinguished Service Cross for their actions on that night. And I just want to let everybody know that February 11th is our annual Four Chaplains Mass. It's our 68th annual. And as far as I know, I think that's the most that any organization in the U.S. has ever done with that, is we have received an award from the Chapel of the Four Chaplains. And immediately following the Mass in the hall downstairs, there'll be a reception and luncheon, and the public attending the Mass is invited down, and it's at no cost. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else for the first? Ma'am?
Hello.
Welcome.
My name is Jane Sharon. I live at 3 Spring Garden Road in Enfield. I was born in Thompsonville in a building right across from St. Patrick's Church. in 41. And I've been a lifelong resident of Thompsonville/Enfield. And I have a question. I'm a senior citizen. I use the senior center. And I remember when the vote went to referendum to vote on the funds for the senior center for the seniors. Now, does that mean that we're going to be under something else, or is it just going to be used as a senior center? There's rumors going around about the new Department of Leisure. Is that what it is? Not sure. That it will be used for other things besides for the seniors. And I'm wondering if that can be addressed to put our minds at ease. That senior center is a gorgeous place. And the Friends of the Senior Center do a lot to donate equipment for the gym, which I use since I've had my last replacement surgery in the end of October. And because it was such a good outcome, because I had been working out since my other hip replacement in February, and everybody was pleased at how well I did because I was using the joints. And the senior center is a good place for us, and I wouldn't like to see it go downhill.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else for the first time? Anyone else like to speak a second time? Well, Bob, you'd be the first, right? If you're the first time.
I'll be back. Bob T. Katz, Woodgate Circle. I really have a lot of faith in this council, and I'm sure you're going to do the right thing for every unit or every organization in town. However, it's very difficult with what's going on in the economy. Population is declining in Enfield severely, and it's going to be very difficult. I remember in '63 when it was going the other way. It was expanding at such a rapid rate, they were building one school a year. The budget, they couldn't handle it. It just got out of hand, and I remember Frank Mancuso, how he had to make some tough decisions, and he got criticized. But I do want to say one thing, and I don't know if any of you had been able to read the editorial tonight in the JI, and it says, police settlements, at least now residents know the facts. And there's one paragraph here, but now at least because of the Journal-Enquirer and the ACLU forcing information out of the Enfield Police Department despite the stonewalling of Town Attorney Bromson. So we have a good name for him. Stonewall Jackson has lost his name, and it's called Stonewall Bromson. Well, Chris and I go back to the 90s when his first day, and then I asked him for a legal opinion from the floor, and we haven't been able to figure out what that was. Anyways, I did a little calculation on the growth of the senior population in Enfield. I know Councilman Davis brought it up. In 2015, we had 6,794, and it's growing. It will be 7,326 by 2030, and then it'll start declining again. So we do have an expanding organization that needs help. So I would recommend the council try to do something to at least keep the services at a minimum. Things are happening in the medical industry. There's a hospital in Springfield called Vibra. It's closing at the end of March. The pharmacy that supplies Blair Manor is in bankruptcy. The biggest problem when now the drug companies are demanding net 3 days. You don't get your next shipment unless there's a check sitting there when they make the delivery. And most pharmacies get deliveries twice a week. And it's affecting the medical industry. Charlotte Hungerford's just been taken over by Hartford Hospital Healthcare. The major hospitals are buying up the competition. Because if you know Rockville was in the paper, they're in a deficit. Manchester's positive, and the reason that organization got in the deficit because the CEOs played games with junkets and spent a lot of money unnecessarily and then put it into the medical help. All right, we have a building on 124 Maple Street. It's called Fermi High. That building is, the replacement cost is $27 million. It's assessed at $23 million. It's appraised at $23 million. It's got 41 acres. That is a perfect industrial site that you guys should put on the market. We have to sell what's the most promising thing to sell. We don't need it. We need JFK. JFK, the replacement cost on JFK is about $17 million. $23 million. And we're going to spend $95 million to renovate it when the replacement cost of the building is $23 million. If that's the case, because Fermi was quoted $30 million to renovate it, we're going to spend $200 million to renovate Fermi. We should put it on the market, even to get rid of it for $1, put it on the tax rolls, because we need the money. And I know this council will do the right thing. And I'm going to say one more thing. Longmeadow just did a reevaluation of the property. Now they're going to have a 3% tax hike. They're right at the 25 mils. That's the maximum that you can charge in Massachusetts. They're at 100% evaluation. We're at 70%. So they're probably about 33 mils. They can put their debt, Longmeadow High School is about 2 mils of the debt. And they're really trying to figure out what they're going to do because there's really no buildable property in Longmeadow they can't expand. They have a few things going on, but it's minimal. They have to put their public works department in a park because they have a lot of open space and park space. So that's really what's going on there. This Hartford 75 mill rate is bogus because they have an exemption from the state. They're appraised at 30%. So that's like 31 mills here. So that's a big scam in Hartford. They're closing 10 schools, maybe 15. It's affecting everybody. Schools are closing. We have to watch our spending. We can't spend any more money. We're going to actually have to reduce the tax rate if you're going to have infield growth. The tax rate is too high for the economic level of the population. People can't afford to live here. The vacancy rate in rentals has gone from 2% to 6%. Luckily, the housing vacancy rate's at 1%. It's pretty steady. So there's a lot of things happening in the economy. The mill rate is too high for the people that live here for the income they have. Income is stagnant. Thank you.
Thank you. So anyone else for the first time? Go ahead, ma'am. Where do we start?
Joanne Alphonse, 1221 Enfield Street, apartment number 3, Enfield, Connecticut. I spoke last time, and it's the first time I did speak, and I was questioned, are you not comfortable talking to me? And that's talking about Dawn, the Director of Social Services. And I said, no, and she goes, why? I says, because you tell me I can't talk. And she goes, I wanted you to just reword what you're saying. And I'm saying, well, you're supposed to be the smart person, you know? I'm saying to myself, I'm saying, if you don't understand what I'm saying, you shut me down. You know, you don't even try to understand what I'm saying. You just shut me down. So anyways, I'm not worried about my job. I'm here for the safety of my clients. Today was the first day. I'm also going to get emotional because I wasn't able to be on the bus to take care of my clients. Instead, I opened up at 7:30 this morning for the first time. I ran my butt off just making coffee and serving this and that, and I was wondering about my clients. It really bothered me because they expect a person to pick them up, hold their hand, put the seatbelt on, and bring them to work, to where I work. It's so important.
And I'm sorry, I'm even more emotional because I'm just getting over pneumonia, sinus infection, so I'm not feeling good to begin with, but I'm also very upset because all these changes are happening. And like I said, I don't care if I lose my job. It doesn't make any difference to me. I want my people taken care of. I really do. And Joe, I came across a letter, but I was told not to read it. It's the same thing that you said last week. You know, we were in trouble 8 years ago, you know, losing a nurse and a CNA. Now we're doing way worse than that right now. You know, we're not protecting the clients. And that is our main priority. Our main priority is to go ahead and give them safety. And we're not there right now. At all. We are not there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Cody, we have less than 10 minutes left, so you got 3 minutes.
I won't even
You
sit
got 3
down.
minutes. Go ahead. You all sit
Okay,
down. Go right ahead. You got time.
Just going to finish the last two paragraphs. I'm happy to hear that's just going to be brought up for
Please, go
public.
ahead, say.
Art Cody, and actually not the president anymore, just a citizen. I'm happy to hear that this will change will come up for review. I might suggest that if the board, when the council gets together to decide this, they hold a public meeting in the institutions that may be changed. The library, the senior center. I don't know where the rec is. As you can tell, I don't know where rec is, but. So that's good. As for the adult daycare, there's more than the individuals themselves who are being taken care of. I'm shocked as a former rehab counselor that you would have people who are disabled climbing in and off a bus on their own. I mean, that sounds to me like just totally off the wall. And that's about it. And the reason I want to keep my records in the senior center is I want to make sure they're accessible whenever any government agency asks me. Our past president, unfortunately, passed away. She had records present in her house. I really did not feel comfortable bothering her widow to ask for paperwork for some stupid government, thing. So truly, if we can't keep the paperwork in the senior center, I don't even care if there's another town office, it can be kept in so that during business hours, it can be accessible. That's all I'm really concerned about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else for the second time? Anyone else? I declared a, sorry, go ahead, Bob. Got 3 minutes.
Bob T. Katz, Woodgate Circle, I forget where I live. I did an analysis of the facility study of the 25 buildings that they studied on what needed to be done. And I compared that with what the total cost to rehab these buildings compared to the priority 1 cost. And the building that's in the worst shape in Enfield is Hazardville Memorial. 90% of that is priority 1. Enfield Street's number 2. Crandall is number 3. The police station is number 4. I didn't think the police station was in that bad a shape. Number 5 is Barnard. Number 19 is JFK. That needs the least amount of work. I looked at what they're talking about replacing. Most of it is cosmetic, replacing ceiling tiles, floor tiles. Even in here, they want to replace the ceiling tiles. They want to put a new desk here for the console. It's a priority 1 project. At Pearl Street Library, they want to make it accessible for the handicapped. Well, that building is exempt. All the Carnegie libraries in the United States are exempt from making handicap accessible. That's half the cost of rehabbing that library. So there's many things that are really bogus in this facility study that should be looked at. Number 2, you have all these sheets. There was a couple energy charts as far as electrical and non-electrical. Some of the worst buildings as far as consuming electricity: Head Start, Enfield Street School, and Thomas Alcorn building. They're consuming a lot of electricity. In the town side, Family Resource Center, the Lamagna Center, EMS. We have to do a lot to lessen well, that's the non-electrical. So we got a lot of leaks in the building that has to be fixed. As far as the town buildings, as far as electrical usage, EMS, the town hall, and the Enfield Police Department. I didn't think the Enfield Police Department was in that bad shape. Apparently it is. And non-electrical, Hazardville Memorial. It's one of the highest consuming electrical energy consumption. So I'm going to leave it at that. There's a lot of things that need to be done, but you got to look at your operating costs when you do the facilities. It's more than putting new boilers in. It's your operating cost that you have to look at, which affects the budget for the next 20, 30 years. And that's the most important thing that you have to look at. Thank you.
Thank you. We were right about an hour. You get one last one, 3 minutes. We're right at an hour. How you doing?
Good evening.
Welcome.
Claire Neal, Kennedy Drive. I was at Hazardville Memorial today, and it was warm, so it wasn't too bad in there. And I noticed all of you today, you're not wearing your coats, you're not wearing your hats, your mufflers, your scarves. Today at JFK, they all had to wear their coats, and they were told to wear their coats tomorrow. And apparently, I heard, this is not gospel, but I heard they're working on one boiler. I've seen the boiler room when I was working on the referendum. These boilers are about the size of cars. They're the oldest things in the world. You probably can't even get spare parts for them. So I can't understand why they're number 19 and needs help. Basically, these kids have to at least be kept warm in the winter. So really, think about that. And it's got to be done now. It's got to be worked on now. These kids cannot go the rest of the winter putting their coats and their hats and their boots and their mufflers on and try to get work done. So please, thank you. Work on that. Also, with the CNA, yes, please, keep the CNA on the bus. Who's going to alert the driver when someone has a heart attack? When someone has a seizure? Is the bus driver going to stop and help this person? No. Is the bus driver even going to know to help this person? No. The other residents, the other patients on the bus are not going to know. This CNA, they've been trained. They know what's going on. They're going to be most helpful. And maybe these 2 minutes of them finding out what's going on, working with this patient, could help that resident to be alive the next day. Thank you.
Thank you. An hour, so I have to declare public communications closed. Moving on to item 8, council communications. Councilor Bosco.
Through the mayor to the town manager. One, I think we really need to update the schedule. If a standard is here for helping people that, or a guideline that came out in April, should have been put in April. I mean, I could see maybe May, but you can't be going 7 months without updating your standards, especially when you're looking for people looking for loans that are hurting. They're not going there because they have money, and it's really pretty sickening to find out that someone that needs it can't get it because our information wasn't correct. So, I mean, I'm glad Josh got that taken care of, but I really think we should be starting to look and try to update our, when something comes in, especially something like that changes a guideline. If it was the other way, it probably would have got done right away. But because it went up, it needs to be looked at. The bus, I really very strongly feel we need a CNA on there. I'm sorry, I don't know what our discussion tomorrow is going to be with the budget. What's going to be here, what's not. I'm sure that audience is going to be full of people that aren't going to be happy with the hard decisions that are going to have to be made one way or another. But as long as we offer a service, I feel that we probably should stick with what worked, at least till we know what we're doing with it. Again, now, I go back 8 years. It's the first I heard about not taking out-of-town people. I remember that was something we did so we could keep the center going. So I don't know the reason why it's stopping, but without people there, we didn't have enough money, and that's why it was going to go the first time. And they put the people from out of town in there only to be able to keep the numbers up, so they couldn't keep it so it would stay afloat and not really cost the taxpayers any more money. I mean, in my opinion, we should be packing it so that way the town doesn't pay. But like I says, I don't know what's going to go on, and we're going to get the bad news tomorrow, I guess. But you know, for now, I just don't like the idea of not having someone there to help, even if it's not a CNA. It's just somebody else on the bus, just till we could figure out what's going on. I could tell you this much: if my mother and father were alive today, there would be no dollar I wouldn't spend, nothing I wouldn't do, and I would do anything in the world to be able to meet them one more time. So, you know, while people have their parents, they're probably the most cherished thing that they could ever have. Until they're gone, you don't realize how bad it is. And we really need to make sure our elderly are taken care of. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
I guess I'd like to answer, I guess Vinnie left the meeting a little early, but we'll be meeting on the 4th at the state over JFK to find out what the referendum, could we go out back in the spring and maintain our reimbursement, or will we have to wait for November for our reimbursement? I like to address, you know, renovations versus new construction. New construction is always more expensive than renovations. And if you're doing school construction, ballpark for the state of Connecticut, to meet all the requirements that you have to do for the state of Connecticut, renovations are probably $250 a square foot, and new construction is $450. It's just a ballpark number that we use. You can't possibly build new for less than it would cost to renovate. You also would have demolition and everything else in there. But we are going on the 4th. I think Tom will be there, and the rest of the facilities committee, I hope, will attend. And we'll see what we can do in conjunction with the state. We need to do something.
Suspend rules.
And move items E, F, G, H, I, and J to miscellaneous and proceed to vote.
Your motion on the floor, second by Councilor Falk. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing those, all those in favor? Those opposed? All in favor? To suspend the rule, move those miscellaneous. Anyone? So, Councilor Falk, then Councilor Davis.
We had received correspondence from the manager from the chief of police, and I wanted to note this for the public, and this is quite impressive. Officer Mike Colantano and his new K-9 Nova graduated this month from the State Police K-9 Academy. Officer Colantano was selected as the top K-9 handler in the state and received the Trooper Davis Award. It's a very prestigious award, and I think we should all be proud of him.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Davis.
Yes, first with Marilyn and Joanne, thank you very much for coming and speaking, working there, and putting your clients' well-being safety before your own job. You know, that's just, I can't even say words to describe that. Thank you very much. We know that the seniors that are there are in really good hands with you guys there. Through the mayor, through the town manager, can you still answer Gina Sullivan's questions since they're not fully answered? If we can please get the accurate answers to her questions. I mean, it's a lot less now. It was 8. I believe now she's at 4. And also, can we get an answer on why that CNA is off the bus, and to hear Deborah say with her mother that they weren't even notified prior, that like it wasn't discussed before we just put a policy and say, hey, we won't have a CNA, you have to put your parent on that bus. I mean, it's real disheartening. That's safety's first. I understand we have a budget cut and we have a lot, but there is no price on anybody's safety. I mean, that we need to put first and cut somewhere else. We don't cut where people can get injured, hurt, fall, or someone loved one. You know, there's not a price tag. And for our, you know, sorry you still don't have your box of records. Is there a way, does anybody know where their records are for Friends of the Senior Center? They should already have them. So hopefully they come up pretty soon. And I do agree about them being in a town building, because when something happens, that's why our PTO stuff is kept in the school. And that's why we have a box there. You know, you never know what can happen. And this way the next person can pick up where the last one left off. And Josh, sorry to hear that your family had to go through that, you know. Real sorry. Joe pretty much covered on that, so I'm sure that will not happen again. And Tracy, you know, sorry about Bland Mariner. You can tell how much you really cared about everybody there. And, you know, the council and, of course, our amazing attorney and stuff did everything they could do to step in and help. Vinny already left. Bob, I'd like to say thanks for all your research you do, your stats, and all your information, that you always come with a wealth of knowledge and like to educate us. So really appreciate that you put all that time into that. And Claire, I would say with JFK, you're right, there was no heat. The kids' hands were freezing. One was my daughter, which doesn't complain, and believe me, she let me know it was warmer outside when I picked her up than in the school. So, you know, if anything, they should just shut the school down till we fix it. I mean, it's on the block to be fixed, yes, but it was freezing in there today. I think that covered everything. Hopefully I did. That's it.
Thank you. Councilor No.
Both Joe agree 100%, if we get to say that today, and I'll keep it brief too.
Make sure that's in the minutes next time.
All right, I agree on both sides here tonight. So I won't add. No, I both ends. But again, our nonprofits, we need to support them, especially, you know, the Friends of the Senior and the library. You know, and even the way the Athletic Hall of Fame, which is another example, functions as a 501c within our system. And I think it's a great system, and we should keep moving it in that direction and maybe even further. So I have another one to add to the mix. Alcorn School. So now there's a notice you just had out with parking. They want no people to utilize the any parking, and I know people are watching on TV right now because they're saying it live. That's the crazy thing about today. It comes right around, and we know instantly people sitting home watching this. There's an issue too with the 2 basketball courts there, and I wish this would have came up at Leisure Services, which is a committee that we have, the council has, to discuss these things, because it was discussed previously, the 2 basketball hoops there that are heavily used by the kids in the neighborhood, and they may be used when the parking isn't there. And I know they used a park on that the 2 basketball courts for some time now, which shows that the building's got more people than it does parking, which is difficult in the whole downtown area. But we have such a concentration of children in the downtown area. We only have, you know, a couple basketball hoops that are available to them, and one is in, you know, it's not in a great shape. Neither one of them are in great shape. Lafayette Park or Alcorn, and I know they're used, and they're used quite heavily. So now they're gone. That's an issue for me personally, because that's the neighborhoods I grew up in. I mean, there's little for the kids to do down there now. The elimination of those hoops without some kind of alternative place to put a new set I wish we could actually have a meeting with Leisure and discuss that, because we had discussed even condensing both those hoops to one area, saving the town money and still having modern facilities downtown in the central area where they can be used. So that, and if you could spend a couple minutes explaining to people what the parking situation is and why the area now, the people that, you live right around, you're separated by a fence at Elkhorn in your houses, and people, use that playground in the back, and now this was sent out from your offices. It's kind of not enough explanation. So if you could spend a few minutes on that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilor Langeier.
I just wanted to thank everyone for coming and speaking and letting us know how you feel. And I'm sorry about all the concerns with the senior center, and I hope we can clear those things up. I agree with everything Joe said, and I'm hoping to get the CNA back on the bus. I think that's really important and that we need it. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Suzak.
I guess through the mayor to the town manager, I've heard from our state reps a number of times, and I'd like to have a public hearing scheduled for the traffic light at the top of the Enfield High. Thank you.
Can we have that for next meeting? Which would be, what's today, the 2nd, the 16th? No, it'd be a Tuesday, right? Yeah.
Yep, Tuesday.
Public hearing before the regular town council on the traffic light? Oh, you want to say that for manager? Okay, sorry, yep. Okay, I'll be really brief. Just want, again, would like to highlight 3 quick things. I want to thank or appreciate the wrestling team for having me at the tournament over the past weekend. They did a great job. We had some really tough kids that were wrestling, and great job to the coach, Coach Beeler, his staff, and all the parents who got up and cooked some food for the kids early in the morning in the tournament. It was well done. It was, I think, 4 or 5 schools there, and it was well attended, and yeah, we got some tough kids. I also want to thank, again, I apologize, but I want to make sure I capture everything. I was invited to the Toys for Tots, Toys for Joy, with the Enfield Police over the holiday, and they did, the police, did a great job through Chief Sperazza, handed out or assisted over 300 families, which is approximately 1,000 kids, which is pretty cool when it comes to handing out toys for Christmas. Officer, and if I ruin anyone's name, I apologize ahead of time, but again, pronunciation isn't my thing. Officer Paul Dubell, who has really been the leader of the program. Officer Mike, I'm going to ruin his name, Krasnecki, am I close? Krenwick, that was close. Lieutenant Piedmonte, there's another one I screwed up. Officer Becky Ledger, Auxiliary Captain M. Bilgen, again, not even close. Stephen Hall, Officer Peterson, oh my God, Officer Nisrosis, Officer Gusan. I'm not trying to be funny either, I apologize. Officer Crotour, Officer Magnoli, Officer Granada, Officer Hoover, Officer Kaplan, Captain Golden, Captain Hall, some easy names, Sergeant Meyer, Deputy Chief Collins, and of course Chief Sperazza. And again, retired cops who actually showed up and handed out Sergeant Heath, Sergeant Timmerman, and Captain Tobin. Made it through, huh? Not bad. So anyways, to see the kids, again, and with the Jiggy's Cafe giving out those bikes, fantastic. These are legitimate, nice, huffy bikes that these kids, and again, you see the look at some of the kids that were there, that's what makes Enfield what we do. So I think, again, as we kind of get into the last section here is tomorrow night, we want to fill everyone in with folks. So we're having the first budget workshop. So we will have it officially tomorrow night, 6 o'clock here downstairs. It's not a public hearing just yet because we need to let everyone know the situation of what's going on. First of all, I think everyone who came before the council tonight did a fantastic job speaking their mind, again, with their passion, what they believe in. That's exactly the way this council meeting should go. Again, we can disagree on policy, and there's nothing wrong with that. But again, great job by everyone who spoke tonight. So we thank you. We welcome you back every single week. This is what we should be debating, how we move forward with the town. And we promise that we're going to have many public hearings as we go over the next 4 months. Hopefully, we're going to have one in January to start after we release the information to the public so folks can see where we're going. And then we will have all these public debates on how we fund and how we keep programs going. What are we willing to pay? How are we going to generate revenue over the long term other than taxpayer money? So there's a number of things going on, and we are going to be as upfront as we possibly can be, because quite frankly, we need everyone's ideas. We need everyone's, again, patience. We also need everyone to come to the table saying, what can I do? That's how we got to approach this, because this is a unique situation with getting cut the $2.3 million that we got cut. And unfortunately, if you understand what's going on at the state, as we go forward, we may get another cut. So these are all the reality of the situation, and it starts tomorrow night. And we plan to be as upfront and have as many public hearings as we possibly can. And we may try to move them to other buildings. I mean, we haven't really gotten to that discussion. We may try to move it to the senior center to allow folks to speak there. I mean, so those are all things we're willing to consider. So we want to reassure folks that this is going to be a very open process. And we welcome your emails, your phone calls, coming before the council. So again, remember, this isn't just your only opportunity to speak. I know I can speak for most of the folks on this council, both Democrat and Republican. I think we're all pretty accessible. Whether we go to games in town or we go to, or we pick up the phone, hopefully you feel you can email any of us, you can pick up the phone and call us. Again, we welcome all that. And again, like I said tonight, you folks did a great job, and we look forward to working with everybody. So thank you. As we move to item 9, Town Manager Report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have the project and activities report included in your packet, which I'll be more than happy to answer any questions or concerns about. With regard to a couple of items specifically want to call out. To your point, again, a reminder, the budget meeting tomorrow at 6 o'clock downstairs in the Enfield room. This will be an updated version from what leadership saw back on the 20th. Staff will be seeing a similar presentation. Union representatives and leadership will be seeing a similar presentation earlier in the day. So this will be as a complete and full unveiling of the financial situation and condition of the town as we can make within any one targeted time frame. To Councilor Arnone's question about the Alcorn parking issue. So, in short, an unintended consequence of the relocation of the school administration over to the Alcorn facility was that in addition to their staff, existed IT staff as well as some tertiary functions, but a training facility. So on numerous occasions, we noticed that the parking was not sufficient to meet the use and demand of the building. So several months ago, we had actually started to look at ways to address the parking situation. So there was some money that was set aside in the capital improvement budget for parking at Hazardville Institute and over at Lamagna Center. Looking at that money as a resource, we tried to be able to accommodate the parking needs and the recreation needs over at Alcorn. Unfortunately, time after time and issue after issue, finance and design and all of the other requirements that go into addressing these issues came into play, and that was compounding on the winter. And what was happening was more and more staff were being forced to park in the yard over at Alcorn. And the reason for that was that you are correct, the basketball hoops and those basketball courts are used quite extensively. And when staff first began parking on the basketball courts, the users were using those vehicles to ramp themselves up to the rim to slam dunk. So while there was plenty of room to park on the pad, staff was reticent to do so because people were effectively vandalizing their vehicles. So with winter approaching, not being able to have sufficient parking created an issue. So what we did was, because we realized that a recreation need still exists, we did pull out the hoops, but we left the poles and the backboards so that at least for the winter we could use the hard surface to park, hopefully develop some kind of plan to either impart or whole return some of that facility or some of that area back to basketball use as we try to work out some kind of compromise as to how we're going to address both parking and recreation. But we have about 4 or 5 separate plans on how we can either construct additional parking and leave the basketball, or how we can construct a new basketball hoop and expand parking onto the existing. So we're trying to work within the conditions we have to address the issues that are present. So I hope that this is a temporary issue, but we do acknowledge and understand that that is a recreational facility that is used, and we want to be able to return it to that as quickly as possible. So that is the reason why we have the situation that we have at Alcorn. With respect to the public hearing for Route 5 and the traffic signal at EHS, just as a quick backstory, Representative Hall and I believe Representative Stokes as well had some conversations with the Commissioner of DOT several months back about DOT installing a traffic signal at that intersection. As a result of their communications and their discussions, it was tentatively agreed that the most expeditious way for a traffic signal to be put in at that location, the Commissioner agreed that a traffic signal there would be warranted, but the most expeditious way to do that would be to have the town put in the traffic signal at its expense in advance, in accordance with the Connecticut Department of Transportation's rules and regulations. And once that light was in and operational and met the satisfaction requirements of DOT, that the town would be reimbursed for that expense. Commissioner Rediger then referred us to a planner in the department. We've reached out to that planner on several occasions. We have not had any communication back. So we're all in agreement on what the general terms and conditions are for this light to be installed. But what we don't have is anything in writing or any specific direction as to what we need to do next. So I'm more than happy to schedule a public hearing at council's request. I don't know that we would have sufficient time frames to meet the next meeting, but at least the first meeting in February to do so. But I have no way of knowing whether or not that public hearing will provide the appropriate information, the appropriate format, or the appropriate context to meet DOT requirements for such a public hearing. So while we're more than happy to schedule that hearing, I can't guarantee that holding that hearing will ultimately advance this project until we have more direct and definitive communication with DOT.
All right.
But at the will of council, we'll be more than happy to schedule it.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Brian, because I think what it does is it removes a reason. Right now, the reason that we're not moving forward or we're not receiving anything back is that we haven't had a public hearing. So for me, it's sort of like, we'll move it forward. And as I pointed out to our representatives, that had this been brought to us earlier when it was first requested of the state and it was denied by the state, that this would have been done had this, because it could have been done under the guise of the building committee.
Yeah, I just have to address too the kids jumping on the cars, you know, and I think that was just off topic. Sure, that's definitely not what we want kids to do, but this is exactly what happens when you start a war and you park on somebody's turf and they're going to get you back. I'm not condoning it. I think it's terrible. But to bring it up as an example of my inquiry about basketball hoops, I think is out of line.
Anyone else? Yeah. Councilor Cusati, go ahead, sorry.
Okay. Through the mayor to the town manager, getting back to the JFK situation with the boilers. Knowing that JFK is our town's shelter, I guess my question is, and I know that we're looking at a temporary boiler for the facility, and it's only operating on one of 3 boilers that are that's busy right now. Why have we waited this long for this situation to come up without action to be done? I know that we're in the process and we'll be voting on this tonight for the temporary boiler, but you know, this is our town. What happens if that boiler tonight fails, the one that's operating right now, all right, we use JFK as our town shelter. Why haven't we been proactive in getting this boiler fixed or getting the boilers fixed for JFK? Were we counting on this referendum to pass for this to be part of the fix, so to say? But a temporary boiler for the winter, I guess, is better than nothing. But is there a long-term plan? Are we going to get this replaced soon?
At this point in time, I would have to defer what we have done to date with respect to this particular building and this particular issue to the Public Works staff, and the Assistant Director and other key staff members are here tonight to address any questions or concerns about council, and I'll allow them to do that at the time that the legislation on the agenda comes up. I can't speak, Councilor Cruzati, to what the town's policy or its position has been about what the long-term plan for this facility was, because it was developed prior to my arrival. But what I can say is that we can only be as responsive as our resources allow us to be. So going forward, we will put the effort and energy and the priority into that facility that council and its assignment of resources allows us to be. And I'll let you and the rest of council be the judge of what is the appropriate policy and what's the appropriate priority, especially in light of what we're going to share with you tomorrow. But I don't have the answer to the long-term question, sir. I wish I did, and I hope that we get the guidance and the direction from council to be able to provide the appropriate response soon.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anything else? Move on to item 10, Stonewall Bronson, Town Attorney report.
I'll have to stonewall on that, Mr. Mayor. I have no formal report this evening. Thank you.
Number 11, report of any special committees of the council. None. Moving to item 12, old business. Item on page 1A, 1 or 2. Anyone have a motion? Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Motion to remove item 2 from the table, Board of Assessment Appeals.
We have a motion to remove by Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Arnone. Any discussion? By show of hands, all those in favor of removing? We have 10 for, 0 against. Do we have a nomination?
Please, I'd like to nominate Lori Longy for the position.
We have a nomination of Lori Longy. A second.
Second.
Second by Councilor Arnone. Is there a motion to close nominations by Deputy Mayor Suzak? Second by Councilor Crissati. Any discussion? By show of hands, closing nominations. 10 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilor Davis.
4.
I'm sorry. Councilor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak. Councilor Ungary. 4. Councilor Arnone.
4.
Councilor Bosco.
4.
Councilor Sakala.
Lori Longy.
Councilor Crissati.
4.
10 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Page 2, item 3, nothing. Item 4, have a motion to remove from the table
So moved.
by Councilor Arnone. Second? Second by Councilor Crissati. We have a nomination on the floor. Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Hodzinski.
Hodzinski?
Yeah.
Does I have a second by Councilor Falk, since he saw the name? Do I have a motion to close nominations?
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Arnone.
Second.
Second by Councilor Falk. Any discussion? Excuse me, all those raise your hand to close nominations? We have 10 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilor Davis.
4.
Oh, dear. Councilor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Maureen Hodzinski?
Councilor
Say it,
Ungary.
gonna get it right.
Councilor Arnone.
4.
Councilor Bosco. 4. Councilor Sakala.
Marlene Hodzninski. Hodzinski?
Close.
Hodzinski.
We should have like a class.
Well, I
We
wanted
should
to
have a
say, I'd
training.
like to say their names
Yeah.
instead of four, even when I butcher them.
That's right. We're the only two keeping up with that. Keep at it, Gina.
Sorry.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Thank you. There's 10 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item 5, do I have a motion to remove from the table? So moved. By Counselor Arnone. Seconded by Counselor Davis. Do I have a nomination on the floor, please? Counselor Sakala? I know
I'd
you
like
were
to
got the hand up
nominate
quick.
Judy Kilty,
Okay.
please, for the
I got
Commission on
a
Aging.
nomination Judy Kilty, second by Counselor Davis. Do I have a nomination to close, a motion to
So
close
moved.
nominations by Counselor Falk, second by Counselor Crissati? All those in favor of closing nominations, raise your hand. We have 10 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Davis. 4. Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Abstain.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
Respectfully against.
Counselor Sakala.
Judy Kilty.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
There is 8 in favor, 1 against, and 1 abstention.
We have no nominations from 6 through 15 on page 2. Top of page 3, item number 16, do I have a motion to remove from the table?
So,
by Counselor Sakala, seconded by Counselor Arnone. Do I have a nomination? Counselor Crissati.
I'd like to nominate Marcy Talicio.
Got a nomination, a second by Counselor Davis. Motion to close by Counselor Sakala. Is there a second?
Yep.
Counselor Arnone, all those in hands of favor of closing nominations? We have 10 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Davis. 4. Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Marcy Talicio.
Counselor Ungary.
Against.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
Marcy Telesio.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
We have 9 in favor, 1 against, and no abstentions.
Item 17 remains on the table. Item 18. Motion by Counselor Arnone to move from the table. Second by Counselor Davis. Do I have a nomination, please?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Doug Maxellen.
Second by Counselor Davis. Do I have a motion to close nominations? Counselor Crissati, seconded by Counselor Davis. All those in favor of closing nominations, show of hands. 10 in favor, 0 against. Is there any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Davis. 4. Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
Against.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Doug McSellen.
Counselor Ungary.
Against.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
Against.
Counselor Sakala.
Doug Maxellen.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
There's 7 in favor, 3 against, and no abstentions.
Items 19 and 20 remain on the table. Do I have a nomination for item 21? Or move, excuse me, a motion to move to the table.
Move from the table.
Counselor Arnone, second by Counselor Crissati. Do I have a nomination, please?
I'd like to nominate Kelly Davis.
Nomination of Kelly Davis, second by Counselor Arnone, second by Counselor Sakala. Do I have a motion to close nominations? Counselor, Deputy Mayor Suzak, seconded by
Second.
Counselor Davis. All those by show of hands, close the nominations. 10 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Davis. 4. Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Kelly Davis.
Counselor Ungary. 4. Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
Kelly Davis.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
There's 10 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item 22 remains on the table. Item 23, do I have a motion removed from the table? By Deputy Mayor Suzak,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Arnone. Do I have a nomination, please? Deputy Mayor Suzak?
I'd like to nominate Scott Copen.
Do I have a nomination? Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Falk. Do I have a motion to close nominations? Counselor Crotty, seconded by Counselor Davis. All those in favor of closing nominations by a show of hands? 10 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Davis. 4. Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Scott Copen.
Counselor Ungary. 4. Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
Scott Copen.
Counselor Sakala.
Scott Copen.
Counselor Crissati.
4.
There's 10 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Do I have a motion to remove from the table item 24? So moved by Counselor Arnone.
Second.
Second by Counselor Falk. Do I have a nomination? Nomination by Counselor Bosco.
Second.
Second by Counselor Arnone. Motion to close nominations.
So moved.
By Counselor Falk, seconded by Counselor Crissati. All those in favor of closing nominations by show of hands. 10 in favor, 0 against. Any discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Davis.
4.
Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Miller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Ken Nelson.
Counselor Ungary. 4. Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco.
4.
Counselor Sakala.
Against.
Counselor Crissati.
4.
We have 9 in favor, 1 against, and no abstentions.
Items 25 and 26 remain on the table. Page 3, item B, town manager appointments, 1 or 2, any?
No, sir,
Brian?
no appointments at this time.
Okay. And no appointments from items 3 through 12? No, okay. Item C, I think, remains on the table. Item D, about Macy's, stays on the table. Move to item 13, new business. Again, no appointments in new business. We have item E, discussion resolution regarding adopting the policy and procedure at Enfield Town Council meetings. So this is new business. We don't have to take a motion off, right? It's already, we can just, yeah. So I will, any discussion on the resolution? I'll turn it over to Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Okay, I did send the amendments, and Tom seemed to think they would be okay, so I would call for a vote.
Does anyone have, so this is kind of doing like the second reading of the policy and procedure, so any questions, feel free. If folks have enough time to read it. Counselor Falk?
Just to clarify, I think the hang-up was who's in charge if there's a drastic emergency? Could you just let the public know what the resolution to that was?
Well, I guess there's a number of changes in it, and if you read the policy and procedures as it is right now, anything that's in red were changes. I mean, we went through most of it line by line to identify any changes that happened at locations in the charter, if it's referred to from the charter in the policy and procedures. We have a suggested procedure for email, that we shouldn't be conducting meetings through email, that anything that should be discussed in the open forum should be discussed in the open forum. And the one that was, I guess, critical to me, and we may discuss a little more about this when we discuss the boiler over at JFK, that we, as a board, have an emergency procedure for when 6 members are not able to be present. And what we added to that is means and methods we could use to get a 6-member quorum, that the meeting could be started and people could be brought in through. For me, I preferred Skype and FaceTime to telephone because I think it makes for a better meeting, but telephone would be an alternative. To have emergency escorts to get people here to the chambers if possible. And I stress that this is not a Storm Alfred type thing. This is beyond Alfred, and this is just something that we could never have to use, and I hope that always happens. So that's my sense.
Councilor Arnone.
So I do know this wasn't addressed for a number of years in our policy and procedures. There was really no method for that. And at first I thought there was a little light on it. Now that we've added every means possible before we make that, before that decision is made without 6, that we can use all electronics if there is, and in any means possible. Police escorts, get people here, 4-wheel drive in case of, blizzards, and hopefully not Thursday. And so I'm happy with this. I think that's a good move forward for us to have that language in. I know most towns do, so I'm all supportive. That's it.
Okay. I will read the resolution. Resolution regarding adoption of policy and procedure for Enfield Town Council meetings. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby adopt the policy and procedure for Enfield Town Council meetings dated December 18th, 2017, prepared December 11th, 2017 by the Town Manager's Office. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
By Councilor Falk.
Second.
Second by Councilor Arnone. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Davis.
4.
Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco is out. Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
There's 9 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
We have nothing for item A in the consent agenda. Item B, appointments. Town council approved, nothing there for us to take up. C and D, same. Now we move to item E on miscellaneous. Discussion resolution to transfer funds for the Connecticut River Access Project, $343,200. Resolution, be it resolved that in accordance with Chapter 6, Section 8F of the Town Charter, the following transfer is hereby made. 2, North Main Street Walkways, construction 31008531-545000 in the amount of $343,200 from CIP Revenue Fiscal Year 18, other federal grants, Federal Highway Grant 314-2018-460002 in the amount of $343,200, certified by John Wilcox that the money is available on December 22nd, 2017.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Falk, seconded by Councilor Arnone. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Arnone.
Can we get an overview? I see staff is here today too, on what this project is. Thanks, Peter.
Good evening, Peter Bryanton, Director of Community Development. This is a project that dates back quite some time ago. It's a federal earmark of $3.4 million. It was obtained by then Congressman Simmons, and it originally was slated to be an up and over, or a crossover, if you will, of the Amtrak rail line at the old dam site just south of the 190 bridge. At that time, a quite extensive amount of engineering was done and planning for this, what it would have been an up and over structure to go over the railway. When it was presented here at council, the neighbors were not pleased with the plan, and council decided not to go forward with it. It sat on the shelf for a couple of years, and then at the time, the town manager, Matt Koppler, came to me and asked me what we could do with the $3.4 million. And that's just about the time we were planning the transit center. So we asked on the federal highway if we could move the location of this proposed structure, and they said that we could. It has to be used for a rail crossing. It cannot be used for any other item except to cross. It's called high-speed rail crossing. And we, over the past 7 years, have hammered out an agreement with Federal Highway to allow us to build multi-purpose paths between where they end now at the freshwater pond down to the riverfront, and open up the riverfront for public access. The crossing will take place at the Asnuntuck Underpass, which will eventually be cut off just for pedestrian access only. That little archway is only about 7.5 feet tall. It's about 12 feet wide. It's really functionally obsolete for traffic, and that will create what is called the greenway between the pond to the riverfront, which will be a great amenity for the town. That will be the first phase in opening up the riverfront for public access, which the second phase will be the transit center when we get the Eversource property that will be able to make some parklands along the river. So that's what this is about. And right now we are in the design phase. We have a contract with BL companies. We need to do this part first. We're going to find out how much it's going to cost, and there may be a chance that we may have to put this out to referendum in a year because it exceeds the threshold for public projects.
So,
So when, obviously, it's not going to cost any money with a bond. It's just the referendum is just just something we have to do by
It's a requirement
by law, right?
Correct. It doesn't matter the source of the funds.
Right.
If it's a public improvement, we have to have a referendum. There is a town match requirement with this grant of 20%. It's about $600,000, almost $700,000. But we don't expect that we're going to use the full 3.4 million, so that may actually come down.
Do you have a timeline? That's it.
Engineering and design will take about a year. Hopefully, we'll have that done before the next election cycle. And then, if it were to pass, then we could start construction immediately.
So just to be clear, you're talking about meeting next November. You'd have
Correct.
this. Would this be on referendum for next November?
That's the hope, if we can get the engineering done in time. If not, it would be the following election cycle.
That would mean being complete around June or July in order to meet the timeline to be on the ballot in November.
Right, that's why it's tight. It's a tight time frame.
So I guess then the question is what's the realistic time frame of getting this done in the summer? I mean, in my opinion, this needs to be ready by November, if possible.
Yeah, so is it realistic? Yes. I'll have to talk to the consultants to find out, if it can be done by summertime so that all the public hearings have to be, or everything that needs to be done to get it on the ballot.
When can we invite you back to have an update when we think it's going to be realistic?
Sure.
I mean, what date works? Next meeting after? Can we through to the town manager just to request so again, I don't want to lose track on timing. Sorry, go ahead.
Sure. So I can talk to the consultants and be back at the next meeting.
Perfect. Can we make sure that? Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Davis?
4.
Counselor Falk?
4.
Mayor Ludwig?
4.
Counselor Muller?
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak?
4.
Counselor Ungary?
4.
Counselor Arnone?
4.
Counselor Bosco?
4.
Counselor Sakala?
4.
Counselor Crisati?
4.
There's 10 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item F, discussion resolution, set fees associated with Bazaar Dash raffle permits. Be it resolved as required by Public Act 2017-231, the Enfield Town Council hereby adopts the fee schedule as shown as an attachment A for Bazaar Dash raffle permits dated 12/18/2007, prepared by Deputy Chief Gary Collins. Motion by Deputy Mayor Suzak. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Arnone. Before questions, Brian, you want to give it, if you wouldn't mind, just go ahead.
Just in summary, sir, what I could say is that in light of the budget recently passed by the General Assembly, one of the responsibilities that was shifted from the state to the towns was the regulation of bingo and gaming. So we are now responsible to issue permits, ensure that permittees are compliant to the law, and additionally to that is also to set and collect fees. Of course, the state is happy to share in whatever fees that we do collect for doing their regulatory work. The chief is authorized under the statute to provide for setting the fees for the bingo and basic gaming permits, which he has already done. However, with respect to the larger items, the bazaars and the raffles, those are permits, fees that are required to be set by council. These fees in particular that you see before you are the recommended fees that came out of CCM and were assembled by Deputy Chief Collins. My apologies, but Chief Sferrazza was here to address any questions or concerns, but he unfortunately was called away for a family issue, so he is not here to address those concerns or questions that you might have on this particular legislation. So that's the summary of what you have in front of you to the best of my knowledge. You're welcome to act on this legislation tonight if you choose, or you may obviously table until such time as Chief Sferrazza or Deputy Chief Collins can be here to answer any questions or concerns.
Any questions by anyone?
Just quick, we don't have any anticipated revenue on this. That's all got to come through them too.
Correct. I don't know what the total number of permits issued in the last few years would be, but it's not anything that's substantially,
it's not going to get us out of the mess.
Right. That is correct. That is correct.
Thank you.
In the state, roughly the state keeps, right? So out of, just say if it was set, what was the ratio the state keeps compared to what we keep?
Off the top of my head, Mr. Mayor, I don't recall what the percentage is, but there is a take from the House, so to speak.
Yes, right. Yeah, the House gets,
Gets up.
I think we can vote unless anyone feels otherwise. Roll call, please.
Councilor Davis.
4.
Councilor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Arnone.
4.
Councilor Bosco.
4.
Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Crisati.
4.
There's 10 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item G, discussion resolution to approve a tax assessment agreement for 215 Moody Road. Where, resolution to approve tax assessment agreement for 215 Moody Road, whereas VCRV LLC owns a property at 215 Moody Road, the property, and whereas Preferred Display Inc. intends to consolidate its business operations as the property anticipates that it will bring 146 jobs to the town, and whereas VCRV LLC and Preferred Display Inc. intend to make substantial renovations at the approximately 151,000 square foot building on the property. Now it therefore be resolved that the town manager Brian R. H. Chadkowski is empowered to enter into the tax assessment agreement attached hereto as attachment A, subject to review and approval by the town attorney, in the name and on behalf of the town council with VCRV LLC and Preferred Display Inc., completed December 21st, 2017, completed by Michael Cirillo.
So moved.
By Councilor Falk, seconded by Councilor Nolan. Do I have discussion on the motion? Hearing none.
Was the manager going to go into any more detail? I know he mentioned it earlier.
I'm assuming, Councilor, you're referring to the value of the abatement and, and those particular numbers. Mike, John, I don't know if you could take a moment to come up and address Councilor Falk and Council's concern about the total amount being abated and the overall value of the abatement. Thank you.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, you can start with the numbers. Sure. Michael Cirillo, Director of Development Services. Preferred Display, the agreement that we have is to abate the difference between the current taxes and the projected taxes that would be realized with the improvements that they're making to the old Olympic sales facility. It's based on a progressive scale downward from starting at 100% of the difference or that increase, going down to 0 in 10 years. So what we collect currently on the property will remain what we collect. The abatement is on the difference between the existing, what we have now as the value and the taxes based on the existing value as it is, versus what the increase in value will be based on the improvements that they're making. And then that, as I said, that's 100%, and it decreases over time to 0%. So the aggregate total that they would realize, that the town would realize, is 800 approximately, because we haven't done the final assessment. But our estimates are that the town current base taxes collected would be $510,000 a year. That would increase to approximately $801,000 a year. Over the 10-year period. I apologize. And the difference between the new over 10 years is $291,000. the abatement would come to about $156,000 over 10 years. So that's what that comes out to be.
Yes. Mayor Suzak.
They're doing improvements. Approximately how much are they applying in building permits? Do we know?
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head, no. Thanks.
So I don't want to, but real quick, I know your office worked very closely as we've been working on this for a number of months. Again, the direction we're trying to take as a town, and so maybe just a little, just for the public, just some of the work that the town has done to try to help the company relocate to Enfield, where they have employees who work here. So again, they hope to expand. So this is sort of where we're trying as we bring tomorrow, again, we're trying to grow revenue other than just asking people for tax increases. So maybe just a little, if you could.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the idea here is that they're making an investment in a facility that's currently vacant. That it's not benefiting the town in really any way, except that we're collecting taxes on a vacant building, but there's nobody that's employed that's working there. We're not also realizing any residual business. What's nice about Preferred Display, I think, is it's starting to create what's called a cluster of industries. They're in the industry, in the creative industry, so they employ a lot of artists who do design work, and then that work is then translated using advanced technology, lasers and so forth, to come up with displays that are then used in New York City. So their work goes directly to New York City. So there's quite a bit of residual benefit in this sense. And because we're not giving them a break on what taxes are due from the property as it is right now, it's kind of a win-win. The incentive in this sense is, look, they're coming in, they're making an investment in a property. The town has invested money in infrastructure, which currently is sitting underutilized. They're maximizing the utilization of existing infrastructure, and then we're getting a long-term return on the investment that the town has made in infrastructure in that part of town. So it's kind of a win-win for us. It's not a huge. They asked for more, but I think this is fair.
Again, good job. I'm sorry. Councilor.
Yeah, if we don't do it, another town's going to. And that's the competition between towns, states, in this country, especially, you know, with state aid and help throughout, you know, attract as much business as possible. So this is better in effect too, because it's not a reduction. It's still the same amount of tax that we're getting now. It's just future taxes. And then someday you'll be able to come up here and talk about TIF and future taxes and how we're going to use that future tax to stimulate growth in the future, which is a big, learning curve for all of us, and I hope we remember these, and then it's basically the same, in a way.
And there's a whole toolbox of incentives that cost us nothing. It centers around the quality and the delivery of services that my department in particular provides. Those are cost savings that developers and investors realize from time savings. That's a real thing. You can put a number on that. So incentives don't always have to cost the taxpayer money, and they don't always have to take away resources from a town. And this is part of our toolbox. So we'd like to have a bigger toolbox, and so we're working on that. This is just one piece of it.
Well, I agree. And again, we hope your toolbox does grow, and every single job we add is important, whether it's one or it's 140. It's important. So again, I think hopefully we'll see some more creativity out of you guys as we move forward. And again, I think the building's been vacant for what, 10 years? Maybe even longer? I can't remember. It's been vacant
quite a while.
for a while.
They're putting a lot of work into it.
I know, and it's great.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Okay. No further discussion. Roll call, please.
Councilor Davis.
4.
Councilor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Arnone.
4.
Councilor Bosco.
4.
Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Crisati.
4.
There's 10 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item H, discussion resolution adopting amendment to Chapter 22 of the Town Code of Enfield, Article 2, Enfield Culture and Arts Commission Ordinance. Whereas Chapter 22, Article 2 of the Town Code establishes the Enfield Cultural and Arts Commission, and whereas the Town Council wishes to amend the ordinance by decreasing the Commission's membership from 11 resident electors to 7 members, and whereas the Town Council held a public hearing in the Enfield Town Hall, Council Chambers on January 2nd, 2018, to allow public input on the proposed amendment. Now therefore be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council adopts the amendment to Chapter 22 of the Town Code of Enfield, Article 2, the Culture and Arts Commission Ordinance, revising its membership as directed herein. Date prepared December 26, 2017, by the Town Manager's Office.
So moved.
By Councilor Arnone, seconded by Councilor Crissati. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilor Davis.
4.
Councilor Fall.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Councilor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Councilor Ungary.
4.
Councilor Arnone.
4.
Councilor Bosco.
4.
Councilor Sakala.
4.
Councilor Crissati.
4.
There's 10 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item I, discussion resolution waiving the bid requirement for the temporary boiler at JFK Middle School. Whereas the 3 boilers at JFK were installed in 1967. Whereas only one of the 3 boilers is presently operating. Whereas additional heating capacity and backup are required at JFK. Whereas it is not feasible to repair either of the 2 out-of-service boilers in the next few weeks. Whereas time is of the essence. Whereas the rental cost of the temporary mobile boiler exceeds the $15,000 bid limit. Now therefore be it resolved in accordance with Chapter 5, Section 8, Paragraph D of the Enfield Town Charter, the Enfield Town Council does hereby determine that it's against the best interest of the town to require competitive bidding to rent a temporary mobile boiler to maintain reliable heating at JFK Middle School, 155 Raffia Road, prepared December 26, 2017, by the Department of Works. By Councilor Sakala, seconded by Councilor Crissati. Discussion on the motion. Deputy Mayor Suzak.
I see the date on the letter is the 26th, December 26th. Is that correct?
I believe that to be true.
I had to come in on the 27th to vote on this.
So on that point, does our new policy that we just passed, does that allow us, so if this happens again, can we use this?
We can get 6 of
Right.
us.
So I think maybe. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Kind of isn't the emergency I was thinking about, but this is something that, I don't know, we all watch the weather like, it's a religion with us. And I say that, I would have come in on the 27th. I'm going to vote in favor of this. I think it's something that needs to be done. I think JFK is, our next school. I know Hazardville Memorial needs a lot of work, but these are the things that wake us up at night, especially the people who sit on facilities. Infrastructure is critical. It's critical to businesses coming here. It's critical to our citizens. So anytime we ever have anything like this, just call a special meeting.
Councilor Sakala.
I agree with Donna. I know, at least my understanding is, one of the boilers have sort of been out of service for quite some time, so they were operating on 2 for a while, which has been no problem. But and I understand it's vacation week, but we're all reachable. I think somebody in the town manager's office, DPW, somebody really could have let us all know, and we would have gotten here for a 5-minute meeting to get this done. But we're here now, so let's get it done. And hopefully, as it indicates, they will have it operational by the 5th.
Councilor Falk.
Just out of curiosity, what does a new boiler cost?
I would have to defer to the deputy director and his staff to address those questions.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, councilors and Mr. Manager. First of all, thank you, and I do greatly appreciate how seriously you're taking this. It is unnecessary risk, in our opinion. I have, oh, by the way, Greg Gabinell.
Sorry, name and title.
Deputy Director, DPW, Greg
you.
Gabinell.
Yep.
I have very short duration here in town, and so I have little history, but as I understand it, just for those who are wondering how we got to this point, that this was under significant consideration several years ago when we were starting the Honeywell Energy Performance Contract. And at that time, all three boilers were recognized as at near end of life. And it was recommended at that point that they be replaced with two high-efficiency boilers. And I believe at that time, that was 2015, the estimated cost all in for the boilers and pumps and piping was about $550,000. So, if I understand correctly, that proposal was dropped when the prospect of the JFK renovation came to light, and that was our hope for the next hope for boiler replacement, and that has obviously, at least for now, gone away as well. So here we are at a rather urgent time, and so I'm hoping that we're in consensus with this vote. And is there any other information we can provide at the moment?
I want to continue with that question.
Yes.
We're going to rent a boiler for $40,000, and that's renting part-time. What do we do for next year? I mean, even if we had a referendum, it wouldn't be till November. So, and what if that referendum happens and it fails again? We still have a boiler problem. So what's the plan?
Well, I can speak for short term that the boiler rental for the completion of this heating season will at least buy us time to assess what our options are, whether it be significant repairs, which will probably be hundreds of thousands of dollars, or replacement. And if I understood correctly, there is the possibility of a referendum sooner, to be determined.
Right.
So it's not sure. So the problems still exist.
Understood. This is buying us time to thoroughly assess rather than in a potential very urgent mode that we are now.
Mm-hmm. So can the facility, if you buy one new boiler, a high efficiency, can that one new boiler keep the whole place hot, warm, comfortable?
I don't know that. We'd have to have that engineered.
I don't know for sure. I know the Honeywell proposal was for two high-efficiency boilers.
Right. Okay. It's got to have a backup, right?
Yeah, you should have a backup.
Right.
But from a dollars-and-cents standpoint, maybe you can't afford a backup at this time. You do the best you can, but you still need to be thinking about it. So when will this plan be put together as to what the options might be and what they might cost?
I don't have a date at this moment. But
you are thinking about it, though.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All set?
Yep.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
Has all the asbestos in the boiler room been abated? Or is that going to be something that'll have to be done as well?
That is a probable consideration as well.
I was in the boiler room and if it looks like asbestos, it probably is. So, because I know the town hall had, that was in the performance contract.
Right.
It was removed because people felt that it was in a double place. It's unfortunate that, it did fail, but I think I need to stress, and we can't say it enough times, this is end of lifetime for this equipment. This is not daily maintenance. This is end of lifetime. And people should not confuse this. People, I've heard rumors, boilers last forever. Well, nothing in my life lasts forever. So, I hope that, this passes. This is a stopgap. But if it is under $600,000, and it has to include the, abatement of the asbestos, that it be brought to council for budget season. Thank you.
Councilor Crissati.
Well, I would like to commend the custodial staff at the school for doing their best to try to keep that building warm. I just want to state that. I know the issue was brought up a few weeks ago in regard to the one boiler. I wish we could have acted on this a little sooner. And I know that this is going to pass here tonight, and you'll have that thing up and running by Friday, we hope. Okay? So, but hats off to the staff over at JFK and for you guys, trying to remedy this problem ASAP.
Yeah, I agree. I know you folks are working hard today on this. I got a lot of reports, so I appreciate you taking it as seriously as you do, and so I appreciate that. I think we're actually voting on reestablishing the joint facilities right after this motion, and so it would be great, depending on how things shake out, if we could get a spring referendum. I'm not saying it can happen, but that would be great, and maybe we do push for it. So depending on how things shake out through the facilities committee. So again, I agree with you. I don't know if waiting till November for a lot of this stuff makes sense. That would be but I don't want to speak for the facilities community members who get, because again, we're looking at all facilities. So, but that would be a good goal if possible, to kind of reestablish what, the cost would be to refurbish the building and then get it out to referendum sooner rather than later. But, again, thank you. I know my only request, I know you're working closely with the superintendent of schools. Please make sure they're aware. And if we could get an update on Friday, if it's not ready, or whatever happens, yes or no, reasons why yes, reasons why no. And obviously our strong recommendation is to have it ready by Friday. I guess the only question, if it's school, so does it help if schools are closed on Thursdays due to a snowstorm? Does it help? Does it hurt?
We're trying.
Right.
There is some hope that, assuming this passes tonight, that we could use Thursday for the first stage of that project. If that does happen, then it would be completed hopefully by the end of the day Friday.
Perfect.
Otherwise, it would probably, because it entails a period of 6 to 8 hours with no heat, it's going to have to be after hours or on the weekend. If it does end up being on Saturday, then the temporary boiler installation we feel would be completed on Monday. So,
okay. So
close.
As long as you can just make sure you update us. And again, I don't know who makes the determination in the future, but when these kind of things, if this is an emergency, this definitely qualifies as an emergency. And I think the council's committed to getting together where we can.
So I just want to point out that we can only be responsive to the information that's made available to us. So while we recognize that the building wasn't as warm as we had wanted, the fact that rooms are actually registering temperatures only in the 40s was only brought to my attention this morning when Councilor Crissati called me.
Right.
So had we had information communicated to us sooner about the more accurate conditions existing, we could have called a special meeting on the 26th or the 27th to expedite this. So please understand that we're not trying to minimize this issue or other issues, but we have a large and complex organization, and we have to rely on other people to provide us information to make accurate and timely and informative decisions. And so when that information isn't relayed to us, it's hard for us to be responsive. So please know that if we were aware of the detail and the significance of these issues, we could have been more responsive. We would have been more responsive.
Right.
So.
Yep, fair. Councilor Nguyen.
So what's the protocol? You're building maintenance, you're in the building, we own the building. It's a problem in the building. You go to the principal. Who ultimately says the kids aren't going to be in that building? Do you have to call a health department in to get your kids to go home at 47 degrees? That's ridiculous. Somebody missed something along the line. There should be a protocol. We should know the protocol. They should know the protocol between who complains to who and who makes that decision. And I would imagine it would be principal superintendent. But somebody's got to be held accountable for putting kids in a building at 47 degrees. I mean, off the hook today. I mean, I found out when you found out. That's not right. Thanks.
I would like to add that will not happen again tomorrow. As of 7 o'clock this evening, we have a report that room temperatures are in the mid-60s to low 70s. So, and we have limited operation of that second boiler.
Right.
It's leaking, but it's
And again, I
helping.
know you folks, don't take this the wrong way. I know you folks jumped all over this once, so don't take this, I know you guys jumped all over it. So I'm saying, right, I think to Tom's point, there
That's
needs
all.
to be a little bit of, whether the school's through us, so we can, and again, we're not making that point. So I know you guys are all over today.
Well, could I have one more thing? I want to make sure our staff has the protocol to make sure that, this gets done, because, sometimes our staff can be, hit that other organization wall.
Yeah.
And there has to be a free thinking between the two. And if they're not doing it, you should be able to, hear about it around that, and then, say something to the school department to get this stuff done. So, there's got to be a fail-safe here. That it doesn't stop because, hey, I did my job. I told who I was supposed to do. I've told them 6 times, and it's not getting done. So, I feel sorry for people that have to staff in, in the blue shirts that have to walk by angry parents, and they point their finger at our people. And so that's my rant. Second tonight. Sorry.
Councilor Bosco.
What's wrong with that third boiler that doesn't run? Is that leaking too, or are they the same vintage, somewhat the same, where we can rob parts from one to fix the other one? At least so we have a safety net coming into our referendum, because the referendum just may not pass. So I think we really, if possible, if we can rob parts off of one to fix another, we really need to get them both operational if possible.
We did rob parts off of 3 to get 2 running. Both 1 and 2 were serviced on, we got the invoice on October 10th. They're both in running condition. They were tuned up, ready to go. Once we hit in October, only the first boiler runs. The second one doesn't have to run. We get the cold weather, the second one runs. What we did on it worked perfect, and then we blew a section. There's 17 sections in each boiler. And we blow one. If we replace it, that's a strong one, then the next one ends up blowing. We've had this problem throughout all the schools, not just JFK. So we did have 2 boilers serviced by contractors, ready to go on October 10th. And we did take the parts off for 3 to get 2 running. Very, very expensive, so that's exactly what we did.
Thank you. Councilor Persai.
Last question. The temporary boiler that's going to come in, now, is that temporary boiler, does that get hooked up to another boiler? Will that get hooked up to boiler 1 or to boiler 2? I mean, would it just come in as a portable unit that gets connected to 1, or is that just separate particular unit?
This, you want that one?
It's a standalone unit that it will be. It's pretty discreet looking. It comes in a trailer, like a tractor trailer. It's outside, parked right outside the boiler room, and the connections are made from there.
Okay.
If I may, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead.
If I may, it's bigger than, it's oversized compared to the other ones, 150 horsepower. That will be the lead boiler, and number 1 will be backup. So number 1 shouldn't even be running. It will be online in case this one fails, but the big one we're getting, number one shouldn't be needed.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not hearing any further discussion, roll call, please.
Counselor Davis.
4.
Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco. 4. Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crissati.
4.
There's 10 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item J, discussion resolution amending the town council number 3602 regarding the Joint Facilities Committee. Whereas the town council adopted resolution number 3602 on April 18, 2016, establishing the Facilities Committee, and whereas resolution number 3602 provided the committee would terminate after the transmittal of final report to the town council, paragraph council, and the board of education, paragraph board, and whereas the council and the board recognize the need for a continued permanent committee with comprehensive duties and responsibilities, and whereas the council and the board desire to increase the membership of the committee and to revise its duty and responsibilities. Now therefore be it resolved that the committee shall serve until the council resolves otherwise, and be it resolved that the council appoint 4 of its members and 3 electors to the committee, and be it resolved that the board appoint 4 of its members and 1 elector to the committee, and be it further resolved that the committee membership shall have an equal number of Democrats and Republicans, be it further resolved that the committee member who is absent for 3 consecutive meetings shall be deemed to have resigned from his or her seat, and be it resolved that the committee shall have the following duties and responsibilities. Item number 1, review, evaluate, and recommend opportunities and options relative to the remodeling, expansion, renovation, security improvement, or other such structural alteration or improvement of any town-owned property used for a municipal purpose. 2, work with any council selected architectural and/or engineering firm engaged by the council in support of the committee's duties and responsibilities. 3, provide timely updates and reports to the council and board as it may be necessary to fulfill its duty and responsibilities. Be it further resolved that only the council and board members of the committee shall create a master plan identifying all municipal properties and shall recommend which property shall remain municipal and which property shall be subject to conveyance or transfer.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Arnone, second by Councilor Crissati. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Davis.
4.
Counselor Falk.
4.
Mayor Ludwig.
4.
Counselor Muller.
4.
Deputy Mayor Suzak.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
Counselor Arnone.
4.
Counselor Bosco. 4. Counselor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crissati.
4.
There's 10 in favor, none against, and no abstentions.
Item 16, public communications. Would anyone like to speak for the public? Ms. Kilty.
Judy Kilty, 83 Abbey Road. The issue of the CNA, it's a 4-hour-a-day position, and it's been known to everyone here for a good 2 weeks. A lot of people in town are talking about it. I know that you as a council hire the town manager, which would make you his employer. I've heard some questions answered tonight, but I haven't heard that asked or answered. Why did this happen, and what is going to be done about it? It seems that it's your responsibility to ask your employee why he took this action and what's going to be done to guarantee the safety of our citizens. And I would just like that to be asked instead of wait another 2 weeks and have more people discussing it, worried about it. It's actually happened, and it's a danger. It's 4 hours a day. It's a minimal amount of money. These people don't get overpaid. So I would appreciate it if someone could ask him a question and get an answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that she asked me, how many hours it actually entails. It could be 3 hours.
Name and address, sorry for the record.
Oh, again, I'm sorry. Joanne Alphonse, 1221 Enfield Street, apartment number 3, Enfield.
Thank you.
CNA at the Adult Day Center, the one that takes the morning bus to pick up my friends and whatnot. I I raised my hand at the end of the last session because I didn't realize that you can't do that. But you all talked about resolutions and whatnot. And so in my heart, I said, I will give up an hour of my time every day, and mine's only in the morning. Somebody else does in the afternoon. And I'm sure she would do the same, but I'm not going to speak for her. But I would give up an hour, not being paid for it, just as long as it didn't affect my health insurance. And that was my resolution. And I tried to bring that up to Dawn, the director, and she goes, are you union? I said, yes, but I don't use it. She goes, they would never hear of it. I never had a chance to even, go any further than that. I mean, that was my resolution. That was money that I chose not to take and pocket, as long as it didn't help, affect my insurance. And I really don't use my insurance, but it's nice to know that you have it, and that was my resolution. And I think giving up an hour of my pay to keep my friends safe, the way I've been doing it for the last 16 years, I don't know why all these changes are happening. I really don't. I didn't realize that Dawn works under you, and I don't understand why there's not communication. I really don't. And it breaks my heart because it's not fair. All these changes are not fair, especially because there's no communication against anybody, with anybody. They're just rules that are being made and no communication. And, I've done this job for 16 years. This person has only been here for a year and a half. All of a sudden she's involved and she's changing everything. And like I said, once again, I am speaking because I have freedom of speech and I'm choosing to voice my opinion, which is really important to me. And I really don't care if what I'm saying right now is going to affect my job. There are other jobs out there. I'm a hard worker. I just don't understand what's going on. Like I said last time, I do not understand what's going on. It's not right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi again, Joshua Hamry, 52 New King Street, Enfield. To the point of the Alcorn basketball parking lot, I've been in the house for 16 plus years. We are right against the parking lot to Alcorn. Our fence on the other side of the fence is the school. That the children were dunking off the vehicle, I call that, I don't condone it, of course. I'm a parent. I want my children to be responsible as I would expect everybody's child to. But you give them that vehicle to get some extra height on, what can you expect? More to the point, though, the Alcorn parking lots have been used for years by various town vehicles, IT among them. There was one instance where I was in my backyard and I saw a group of teenagers walking towards the town vehicles. One of them climbed up the back of the vehicle, did a complete flip, and landed butt first on the hood of the town car and dented the hood. Point being is, and that was years ago, I did notify a person within the town council at the time of the incident and asked that my name not be distributed because that would put me in the light of the people that could have done that to my car. But the point is, the children do that when there's an opportunity to do that. If you don't put the cars there, they won't vandalize them. If that's the only place that we have to put the cars, then a couple things are happening. Either you're not giving them enough parking or you're putting too many people in the building for the parking that is available. So I don't want to second guess anybody, but just for a point of reference, vandalism to the vehicles that are kept in that parking lot for any length of time are not new. But when you put a vehicle on a basketball court, the basketball court was there first. So I don't condone the dunking. I'm not surprised at it. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Bob.
Bob T. Katz, Woodgate Circle. I have to remember. I put my coat on because it's getting kind of cold in here. Is the boiler failing? Councilman Crissati, didn't you mention the boilers last meeting about JFK? So at the last meeting, the town manager was here and nothing was done? Is that correct? Okay, so we should have that answer. It's in the minutes. You did mention it. Oh, they did? Okay, all right. You know, the referendum was approved for energy upgrade, but somehow, somewhere, this $1.5 million of energy upgrade, heating and air conditioning, was taken out of JFK because somebody's going to do a referendum. So what happened to that $1.5 million that was approved in referendum that was slated for this school? That's my question. And that money should be put back into the school. Because you got cabinet heaters, you got plumbing, it's part of the Honeywell system, electrical, and the heating system. So I don't know what happened to the $1.5 million that was slated, that was approved by referendum from the public. So we're gonna have to go out for another referendum for another $1.5 million? I don't understand it. I think that should be explained. All right, I want to clear up at the last school board meeting, talking about the enrollment and the class size. This year, the class size is the smallest since 1954. We have 80 less students in K through 2, less than 1,100. We had 1,180 last year. The intermediate grades, 3 through 5, is the same number. But however, you got 3 more teachers than you had last year. You got the same number. The class sizes are smaller there. So I don't know what people are saying, the class sizes, and we used to have over 400 students, 415 students in just about every school. Now we got 318 in Enfield Street, 373 at Memorial, and 400 at Barnard. Barnard used to be a lot more. There were bigger schools. Parkman used to be almost 500 students. You only got 337. So people saying the schools are overcrowded, completely wrong. That's not true. The numbers, if you go back through the 50s and 60s and 70s, we had 30 in a class. Back in the 40s, there was 50 in the class. 1940, 42, they had to close the center school. The boiler failed. They didn't have any money. So they closed the school. So we're right back in the 40s. All weekend I watched Twilight Zone. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone here. All this stuff has occurred back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, and we're just re-educating ourselves on what's going on. So what happened to that $1.5 million that was approved by the public taxpayers? Somebody should account for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Lucian.
Lucian Lefebvre, 54 Kimberly Drive, Enfield. You discussed and voted on the set fees for the bazaars and raffles. Do we know what the prices are?
It was in the.
It was in the attachment, yeah.
It's in the attachment.
In the attachment, yeah. It's not.
You just don't know what they mean.
Right. So they're in the attachment.
They're in there.
Yeah.
They're in here?
No, they're in the attachment to the motion that he referenced when he made the motion.
Right. They're in the
Okay,
full.
can I find that out from somebody before I leave
Do you have a
tonight?
copy? Yeah, Suzanne get you a copy.
Okay.
Yep.
Only reason being is we do a raffle every year.
Yep.
So I know what we've paid in the past, I just want to know what it's going to be now.
Yeah, no worries. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Gina.
Gina Sullivan, 11 Spear Avenue. Very quickly, you all heard Joanne speak and how she talks about the day center and that she's willing to work an hour for nothing because these clients, like I said 2 weeks ago, it becomes a family. Where are you going to hear other employees offering to work for free? If anything, they just want more money. We all do. That says a lot. I'm just, again, I beg of you guys to evaluate, like Judy said, who works for you. You know, we need to stop losing really good employees. It's hurting our town. It's hurting our seniors. How we can hurt our most precious and vulnerable and important population, I don't know how we can do that. But, you know, think long and hard about certain decisions, because it's really putting a dark cloud over us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm still under 3 minutes, right?
I'm not even
you.
timing it. So.
And she couldn't make it tonight. I just wanted to find out if anyone was able to get an answer to Darlene Gallagher as far as being able to go back to the day center. You don't have to tell me, I'm not her, but I would like to think that hopefully somebody was able to get back to her.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Move public hearings be closed. Item 17, any councilor communications? Councilor Bosco.
I really admire that you were willing to work for nothing. The problem is there are labor laws about that. And it's sad that once you work somewhere, you really can't volunteer at that point. But I really appreciate you trying to do what you could to try to make the situation better.
I've also gone without lunch for many, many, many years to keep the client safe.
Okay. Anyone else for council communicate? Deputy Mayor Suzak.
I guess with Bob's question on the performance contract, anything that was removed is not bonded and is not in the performance contract anymore. So there's no monies being held in reserve anywhere.
Councilor Ungar.
I meant to say this with my last comments. I think it was Joanne or Teresa. You just mentioned that there were some losses at Blair, or it was at the senior center. So I just want to say I'm sorry for your loss.
Councilor Davis.
Through the mayor to the town manager, can you explain why the CNAs were removed and how it came about? So we can answer some of the questions, and thank you.
I'm not familiar enough with Dawn's decision to do that. She was provided, you know, she is provided and is responsible for the operation of those divisions that work, you know, that are assigned to the division. So I don't want to put words in her mouth. I'm sure that there is a rational and reasonable basis from her perspective as the director as to why that decision was made, and I will be more than happy to ensure that she provides a response to that question.
Thank you. Item 18, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Councilor Falk, seconded by Councilor Ungar. All those in favor, show of hands. 10 in favor, 0 against.